Okay, I am getting the green light. Shalom everybody, Sukkah Sameach, Chag Sameach. Wonderful to see you all here from all our programs, all together in one place or two places, wherever you are. Wave if you can hear me pretty well. Wave if the volume is okay, so you know you're getting me. That's great. So I hope you're in a Sukkah. Wherever you are, you should be in a Sukkah. If you're not in a Sukkah, it's probably because you don't know much about it. You should go listen to some Torah on the subject. I have this debate each year, which is my favorite Yontif. And each year I think about how amazing and epic Purim is, and how amazing and deep and holy Pesach is. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur I love. But I have to say that I'm pretty sure when I'm sitting in my Sukkah, it's always my favorite Yontif. And there's very little else that can be said on that point for me. There's so much holiness and so much incredible Torah. And Shlomo saying it's pouring rain where he is. Wow. If everybody can say hi and where you are in the world, so I can see you all a little. There's a few different mediums people are joining us from. Let's see where you are. I can't actually hear everybody tonight, so it's going to be better if people just write in the box for this installment. It's pouring here in Florida. Hi Brooklyn, pouring here. Leon is in Miami. Shir is in Yerushalayim. You might as well pop into the Sukkah. Wonderful. If you're watching over here, hi everybody, and you can hit the love button or like button to share it. Shana's in Texas. Allison is in Santa Cruz. Rachel is in Indiana. Julie is in Wisconsin. Hi, Julie. Chana Gaul is in Crown Heights. We truly have an international cheva. Hello, Tzvi, in the Ukraine. I was just there recently. So I want to talk a little tonight about the power of Sukkah and the powerful effect that it has on our leiv. Taharas leiv, the purification of the heart, which is really the essence of Sukkah. It's the essence of the lulav. I was in a wonderful Sukkah last night and talking with a good friend Jay, some of you may know, and a good friend Jay. We're having a debate. I gave a small Torah there. I was just asked, at a friend's place to share some Torah with everybody, and a little of what I'm going to say tonight came out. And a good friend Jay stood up and he said, isn't it dangerous to... It's an important discussion to begin tonight's session with. Isn't it dangerous that we talk about so much emotions, and people should have, such spiritual, powerful feelings, and we should be opening up, all these emotional, and people should be getting all emotional about Judaism, and the idea of a spiritual insight, and this kind of question that a certain kind of shorish neshama asks, which is, how do you know that your spiritual experience is really spiritual experience? Maybe it's just some kind of psychotic breakdown, maybe it's some kind of delusion, and emotions aren't healthy, and this good, caring, intelligent person, it's a real question to some people. If what we're teaching is about often an elevation or meditation, or is to create powerful emotions and positive emotions, then part of the challenge there is that people become irrational. So a good friend was saying that people become deeply irrational, and what's more important than telling people to have powerful emotional experiences is teaching people. And surely he was saying it's the fundamental premise of all of spiritual development according to Torah, that the moyach is shoylet al leiv, as it's misquoted from the Tanya, which means that the mind is stronger than the heart, and we shouldn't really be emotional, or we shouldn't be feeling people, because feeling people are irrational, and irrational people do irrational, stupid, destructive things. And he said, I don't think he's incorrect at this point, he said most of the day he deals with trying to help people who are making irrational, emotional decisions, and therefore facing strong detrimental consequence in their life. Why? Because they should be making more reasonable, rational decisions. And he says, isn't that the basis of Torah? That we should be intelligent, intellectual, objective, rather than subjective and emotional, irrational. And it's interesting to see how he's putting the pieces together. But let's be honest, a lot of people put the pieces together that way, and that's an interesting part of the challenge. So what I want to discuss a little is, the answer to that question is really Sukkat. And from a Kabbalistic perspective, from a mystical perspective, from every perspective you want to sum it up, the answer to that question is Sukkat answers. And I don't know how you would answer that question. Do you think his insight is right, or do you think his insight is wrong? Some of you will go, it's a typical male response. And I appreciate that. And for sure, there are people making rational decisions, emotional decisions that override the intellect all the time. And I think that is a very, if you pardon the words I use, that is a very kind of exiled understanding of Judaism. That is a very Holocaust understanding of Judaism. That the only way we can push on as a people is because we live in a world full of desire, full of lust, full of ego, full of fear, which is true. And therefore the only way we can live with spiritual integrity is to, if you will, repress the heart and lead with the head. Now, as I've mentioned a couple times before, in different groups, in different sessions, if you're in elevation, the idea that Sigmund Freud never listened to music. Have you ever heard this before? He had a personal policy, never listen to music, which is kind of profound. And the reason he did is because he didn't want to become emotional and subjective and irrational and lose his objective capacity for rational, reasonable thinking. Ad kedei kach, that's how far we went. There's a shitas, there's people that actually hold this out there, which is kind of weird and profound when we think about it. So this is what happens when we are in a period of galus, exile, which means our lust and our fear and our doubt and our shame and our pain and our ego are stronger in the society that we live in, the modern reality, than the pure mindful consciousness of our das, of our deeper consciousness. And therefore we see spirituality as a battle between mind over heart. That is not at all a Torah understanding of reality, at all. And absolutely, I want to balance out both sides to say the beginning of all emotional health, and emotional health is the foundation of spiritual development. Otherwise, your spiritual experiences are often probably delusional, is that the mind is stronger than the heart, that you will do the right thing even when and if it doesn't feel good. And all of maturity is offered the capacity in marriage, in work, to keep going, keep doing the right thing, even though you feel disconnected, even though you stay in your marriage just if it doesn't always feel good, because you've committed to this woman, you've committed to this husband, you've committed to these children. And we don't, just kind of disappear or ghost someone, as it's called in the modern language, every time it doesn't feel good to us or feel right to us. That's the beginning of maturity, but that is not the end of Torah, and that's certainly not the end of spiritual development. The goal is to have us alive, because all of mitzvahs, the mitzvahs themselves, the spiritual charges are acts of alignment, of divine alignment. That's what they are. The goal of every mitzvah is to make us into spiritually aligned beings. What does that mean, spiritually aligned beings? It means aligned with ourself and aligned with our source. The goal of a mitzvah, tzav, means connection. But a mitzvah is supposed to connect us in all the realms, shleimus hadas, of all the realms of my consciousness. So I am shalem, I am complete and whole, and also connect me as an individual to all the divine emanations, all the 10 sfirat, which is very much what living in the Sukkah is about. As we're going to talk about, the Sukkah itself represents the Bina, which is always the Chachma and the Keta as well. And then the 6 sides, and me in the center, represents the seven dimensions of the emotions, of the Nuk, of the Esrog, of the heart, of the spiritual receiver, if you will. And all what we're trying to do with a mitzvah is every mitzvah. For example, there's an act of kindness. Somebody walks up to you on the street and says, look, I don't have anything to eat today. Can I get $1? Can I get a donation? So think of this. You could sitting there say, hey, why don't you get a job? It's my money. I earned it, etc. And as you're sitting there bitter and resentful, you're putting your hand in your pocket and you pull out $1 and you kind of give it to them in a rough way, and the dollar falls onto the floor and rolls away. And you're like, hey, I did a mitzvah. I'm in the image of God. At the end of the day, you actually did a mitzvah. Why? Because you used mind over emotion, and you did the rational thing even though you felt grumpy and resentful about it. And in that action of divine action, then you did an expression of divinity, of kindness, right? And as we know from the holy works, that Hashem's divine name is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And as you've heard many times, Ari Kaplan brings down the Yud, the dot is like the coin, right? Is the money. And the Hey is numerical value 5, which is the hand. And then your outstretched arm represents the Vav. and then their final hay receives it. So the act of creation itself is an act of taking the value, taking the money, putting in the divine hand. Hashem stretches down through the world, and then we receive it in our hand. So we are replicating the image of God. But listen very carefully. Yes, I did it with Mesirat Nefesh. Yes, I did it that my mind, I should do the right thing and help this person, overrode my heart. Why doesn't he get a job? The guy's so pathetic to do the right thing. But what I failed to do is what? Align my heart to that value. What I failed to do is, you understand, the ultimate goal of mitzvah is to make you divine. And divine means, Hashem is echad, Hashem is one, Hashem is shalom, Hashem is complete. That means there's no distinction, there's no division, and there's certainly, God forbid, no battle between God's will and God's feelings, if you will. And yes, in Kabbalah we discuss God's feelings, we discuss His will, but they're all one and the same. They're all the Esespheros. So, someone's just reminded me that I'm not recording. Thank you for being a superhero, Shira. And now I am. So with that in mind, the ultimate goal is that not just that I give the money. What is the money? The money is the action. It's the action. You got that? And then so that's with the Maisa. That's called the world of Asiya. And then my head has a belief, because I realize that even though the person should get a job, but the idea of compassion, the idea of human responsibility, that I'm responsible for you and you're responsible for me, these ideas are part of my beliefs. Now that's great, but my heart has been resentful. But what about the love? What about the love that if I'm responsible for this person, that's supposed to stimulate an awareness of caring, of compassion, of consideration. There's the problem sometimes within our own religious world today is we do the mitzvahs only because of a rational reason, often a superficial rational reason, and we do it often without any spiritual connection, any emotional connection, and therefore we don't have shleimus. And all of the holy works, even in Halakha itself, it says that mitzvahs need kavana. Kavana doesn't just mean to do the act. It means to align your mind with the understanding of the act. It means to align your heart. It means that I want to help this person because I'm responsible for the person. It means by knowing that I feel so much love and respect for this person that I don't even know, that I want to give them the money the most nurturing, kinding way. It means the way I do the action is not a kind of grumpy, here's $1. It is, hello, my friend, how are you today? I'm sorry to hear about your situation. The most I have is $1, but I give you a blessing. I embellish, if you will, the act. It's called Hida Mitzvah. I add beauty to the action, rather than the most basic minimum action, if you will. And then through doing that, what I do is I'm aligning mind, mental, that's what's called Bina. I'm aligning the life, the heart, the feelings. The difference between doing an act resentfully, here's $1, to doing an act with all your heart, here's $1, and it's good to see you and I hope things go well, is called Hida Mitzvah. And then of course I've created an alignment of head, of heart, and of action. And that alignment is a makava, which allows me to open up to what's called makifim, to higher insights, higher revelation. I feel the spirituality. I actually feel a divine energetic influx coming in from the makif, coming in from the higher worlds, the surrounding lights, the surrounding energy, from the world of Atzilus, because my act is more than something begrudgingly done with 20% of my consciousness. My full consciousness engaged. When your full consciousness is invested, engaged, and aligned into something, you become a channel for something much greater than yourself. And that is the core, my friends, of what mitzvahs are about. And that's the core of what Sukkah is about. Of what we're going to see. So in answer to my friend's question, the Sukkah last night, the essence is not that in life we do the right thing even if we don't feel it. That is the first necessary step in all maturity. But the end game that Torah wants to teach us is to bring our whole self to the table. And a whole self to the table often means a whole heart to the table. You following so far? Great. So a whole heart means to the table means that I would live life truly with passion, truly with excitement, truly with love, truly with awe, literally at every moment. And when a person does, they get more than emotion. What they get is spiritual influx. What they get is his kashrus. What they get is devekus. What they get is hasagas elaki. They get divine insight, divine revelation. They get Yediyah B'li Hakdama, as Rebbe Nachman calls it, which is a part of the Sukkah. They get what's called Ruach HaKodesh. They know things without having, if you know a lot about medicine, say, how do you know a lot about medicine? Well, I did a 15-year medical degree. So that's called Yediyah with Hakdama, which means you prepared and you studied and you learned and now you know. But the goal, Rebbe Nachman says, of all of Torah is to prepare your consciousness to have Yediyahs B'li Hakdamas. And what that means that you know something without learning it, right? Then you know about that person without having been told about that person. And that's what you get when your Ruach HaKodesh is Ruach HaKodesh is the outcome of living with divine alignment. When a person does, as the Uriah Kodesh says, when a person does mitzvahs with simcha, with joy and with love, then the result is that they get flooded with divine inspiration. They get supernatural knowledge and supernatural insight, and a person's heart is transformed. Now, you're following me so far? I want to talk tonight about how the mitzvah of Sukkah affects our perception of reality by purifying our heart. And then, while this is the name for Sukkah itself, this is the essence, and sitting in the Sukkah is supposed to expand our consciousness in a way that expands our hearts, in a way that opens our mind and opens us to a divine download and influx. And I want to teach you some of this from Rebbe Nachman's key works. Tonight is Rebbe Nachman's yartzeit. So it's an incredibly potent day. It's the Spizen of all these Spizen come to the energetic souls of the great spiritual masters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Moshe and Aaron, and Yosef and David. And that means that their presence, their consciousness is in the Sukkah tonight, and it's only there if you invite that in. So I want you to be in a Sukkah, and I want you to, right now, just choose to connect to the energy of those souls and invite them in. And then more than that, the power of Rebbe Nachman, it is tonight. So I want to understand the ideas of what the Sukkah is and what the power of Sukkah is to transform ourselves through a little of Rebbe Nachman's Torah, because he's definitely one of the souls giving tremendous das and a purity of the heart in our generation, and pouring in. Rebbe Nachman says about the Sukkah that, what was I going to share with you? Alidei mitzvah Sukkah zerchen l'taharas alev. We're zocha to purify our heart. Through sitting in the Sukkah together tonight, especially when we connect together and we choose and believe right now that everybody watching this and all the different groups you're watching, that we are really in one Sukkah Shalom of Shlemus, where we're uniting together in our consciousness. We're choosing to be together right now. And the essence of Sukkah is Taharas Alev. To the Sukkah was Sukkah to Taharas Alev. The reason I said to my friend last night in the Sukkah that the best thing we think is possible is that the mind overrides the emotion. The reason we think that's the best thing possible, the reason we see so many people using their emotions destructively and making bad decisions based on their emotions, erratic decisions, unreasonable decisions, is because most of us were never taught how to purify our heart. And the first step of purification of the heart, listen very carefully, I want to tell you about 3 steps right now. The first step is that your mind makes the decision despite the feelings of the heart, often negating the contrary feelings of the heart. That's number 1. The second state is that the mind makes decisions without resistance. Okay? Because at least you've taken the negativity out of your heart, the resistance, the combative nature, the self-sabotaging nature. So at least now you're doing things that are the right way and the right reason, and you're doing it without resistance, and therefore life is a pleasure and life is easy. But the third level, can anyone guess where I'm going with the third level? The third level is Taharas Alev, is when your passion is activated, your heart is activated. You see any truly successful people in the world, truly gifted people in the world. You see not just people that are not facing the emotional resistance, and not just people that are emotionally neutral. They're people that are emotionally empowered. And when you are emotionally empowered, you get into the zone, you get into the flow state, and there you receive something much greater than yourself. And Rebbe Nachman says that comes through the Sukkah. That's the power of the love, and that's the power of the Arba Minim, the 4 species, and that's the power of sitting in the Sukkah. It's supposed to take us to the top level. Now, if you listen very carefully, anyone got those 3 levels? Do you want to write those down? Should I say them again? Say yes if you're following, no if you're not. Hello Pesach and Gateshead. Hello from beautiful Ranana, Susan. Is that where you went, Susan? Yaakov and Beverly Hills. So again, the 3 stages of purification of the heart is, number 1 is you do it. Again, the pre-first stage, as I always say to Alex Glassman, is that you're not doing anything because your heart's just winning all the time, right? And then the next stage is the first stage of real work is that your mind, you do the right thing even if you don't feel it. You want to scream at your wife, you're furious, but you say nice words even though you're just furious, right? Or you turn up to work even though you don't want to go to work. It's Monday and you hate Mondays and you go anyway. Okay, so that the mind overrides the heart. That's a wonderful level. That's necessary for emotional health, for all transformation, because the beginning of all growth and change, you've conditioned, you've habituated yourself to go after your desires, your lust, your fear, your doubt, and most of our lives are made on those decisions. So the beginning of all development is to become awakened. Our das comes out of Golas. We become aware of a value system of beliefs that we have, which are not aligned with the programmed, habit, automatic, emotional response where we've conditioned our heart. Okay, you got that? So the first step is, once you have the awareness that I'm willing to do the right thing, even if my heart is pushing me the whole time against that. The contradictory heart, the self-sabotaging heart. Fine. The second stage is, when you do that enough, your heart no longer resists. Your heart no longer pushes back at you. And therefore, when you do it easily. You do it simply. You do it, simply. I'm going to be nice to my wife because that's what I should do. And your heart's not saying, no, I'm furious at it. You're just saying, okay, that's fine. I'm going to act into it. Because when you act against your heart in a healthy way, not for tonight's discussion, but in a healthy way, your heart stops. You break the neural networks, you break the habits, and your heart stops with the resistance and it goes with the flow. Fantastic. But that's not the third stage. The third stage is that your heart is now onboarded to the belief system. Your heart is now recruited. Your heart is not just not resisting you, and it's not just being neutral and letting you do. It's your heart is passionately excited about what is right, what is good. When you think about, it's not I'm going to be nice to my wife even though I want to strangle her. It's not like I'm going to be nice to my wife because I'm a mensch, even though I emotionally don't care. It's that I think of what my wife does and I feel so much love and so much compassion and so much joy. Not only will I say nice words, I will give it with flowers. I will give it with a listening, attentive ear. I will give it, go that extra mile. And that's when you're onboarded your heart, your process. Does anyone get those 3 levels? Not if you do. Say yes online if you do. Fine. Now, does anyone know where I got them from? Now, anyone can get that by living life. And seeing that pattern in elevation, we see people move through those stages all the time. But, so Kalika says that process has a lot of parallels to addiction recovery. Great. That's very, very interesting. Now, it's funny you say in addiction recovery, that process is exactly the relationship between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkat, if you didn't see this coming. Rosh Hashanah, we say, Hashem is king over the world. And I've had a hard year, and I'm frustrated, and I'm tired, and I have a bad seat in the shul, right? And I step in, and I say, Hashem, you are king of the world. I'm giving my life to you, my heart to you. And I don't feel it, and I feel frustrated. And I say it with Mesiras Nefesh, Makabel Ol Malchus Shamayim. That means that I'm going to do it even though I don't feel it, but I'm going to commit to it. And it's called the Rosh Hashanah because you do it with your head, okay? Because sometimes the most you've got is to commit and to override all the resistance and to push it through anyway. And that's the right thing to do. That's why the Rebbe Rashab talks about the first step of all avodas Hashem. And the conscious avoda is this idea of hada'ah, of being moda, of makabel or malchus shamayim. The first step I can give you, Hashem, when I wake up in the morning is I'm dedicated to you. I don't feel it. I'm still half asleep, and I'm still, really not passionate. I'm still bitter and resentful about what happened, yesterday or last week or last year or the rest of the years of my life. So the first stage of this development of consciousness is that I can give the Rosh of my Rosh Hashanah, I can commit to the truth, and that is going against my emotional resistance. And that's part of the greatness of Rosh Hashanah. But that's only step one. The second step is Yom Kippur. The second step of development, what do we say, is when you clear out the negativity of the heart, so there's no timtum alev. Okay, there's no emotional, energetic blocks to doing what you want to do. So that means I get up and I go to my work. Do you like your work? Listen, I don't hate my work, right? And that's how people respond. Do you like your wife? Listen, I don't hate my wife. For some people, that's a very high spiritual level, and they've worked many years in therapy, and they're not quite there yet, but it's good to have ambition, and that's where their ambition is facing. Hashem should help. So Hashem should get there is the help to the second level. So that's Yom Kippur. The essence of Yom Kippur is what's called Tshuva Me'ira, which means I want to take out the negativity, the negative habits, the mistakes, the error, the destructive nature, the self-sabotaging, neural networks of my mind which have fired together, that have wired together into these negative addictions of how I'm living life, with fear, with doubt, with lust, with ego, etc. And I want to purify my heart of the negativity. That's Yom Kippur. And that's why we spend the day tapping on our heart, is because we're trying to do tshuva to release the negativity. And that's not the end of the game. That's not the end of the game. You see, all of this is really to claim our heart back into our reshus. That's what Rebbe Nachman says is the essence of Sukkah. The essence of it's such a beautiful way, is to get the heart back into our reshus. And that's what I think my friend in the Sukkah last night didn't understand. The goal of life, and God forbid, it's certainly not the goal of Judaism, is not to do the right thing even if you don't feel it. Because what you're saying is your heart is not aligned with you. It's not in your reshus, it's not in your domain. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life battling my heart, but at least I should win. There's a very, very beautiful Torah by the Shem Shmuel. I've always wanted to teach this Torah, I never get around to it. But he says, paraphrasing in light of our Torah, taking his Torah, that if you prove in your life that the divine will is greater than the law of the land, that the doing the right thing is greater than the law, doing the divine will, doing the right thing is more powerful than your heart, is going to override your heart. He says, what you've shown is that Hashem is greater than the physical world. What you've shown that Hashem is greater than the heart. You hear that? He says you failed at being a Jew. Because the essence of being a Jew is Ein Ad Milvadai. The essence of being a Jew is there's nothing else but Hashem. So if your head overrides your destructive emotions and you do the right thing, first of all, kol for kavod, that's the first step of emotional health. But if you think that's end game, all you've shown is that your intellect can be more powerful than emotion. But you haven't succeeded in the purpose of being a Jew, which is to unite heaven and earth, to show that there's no difference than heaven and earth. There's no difference than Shemayim va'aretz, than the neshama and the guf of the leiv. And the essence is that your heart should be in complete alignment, in passionate, electrified alignment with your belief systems. You understand that? And that shows that there's no difference between head and heart. That's the uniting of head and earth, the uniting of brain and heart, of soul, of body. And that's the end game of Torah. That's the end game of Jew. That's what we call coherence. And that's not just that my heart is not resisting me, kol kavod. I have a great marriage. I want to do things, and my wife doesn't say no. Wow, that's much better than it used to be 10 years ago, right? I'm not talking about my marriage. I'm giving an example. So the best marriage is that when one of you wants to do something, you're both excited and passionate to do that together, right? Because the essence of marriage is Isha Kagufa, is that they're united as one. And again, they're never going to be as one because they're one. They're two separate bodies. And the essence of the unity is they are united in will. That they're united in will. That means when one wants something, other wants something, and not, as we said before, you want something intellectually. You want that passion. It's not like we're going to the concert. Why? My wife likes this concert. I don't know why she wants it, but I'll go with her because I'm such a mensch, right? That's not what we're saying. It means if she loves it, I love it. The Tanya says this very beautiful Torah about mitzvahs, and that's exactly what we're getting at. Is the essence of a mitzvah is the highest spiritual connection to Hashem is through doing mitzvahs. And that's interesting because you would think it's just, I don't know, if I close my eyes and I feel Hashem, then isn't that a higher spiritual state than doing an act? So he says, and it doesn't contradict what we're saying, and it builds in, if you think about it in a deep way, that the highest spiritual experience is a mitzvah, because at the end of the day, as much as we want to return to Hashem and come close to Hashem, we are still polar opposites. He's a divine being, and I'm a human being, okay? He's infinite, and I'm embodied. And if I reach to him, how close am I ever going to be? But he says, if I take a divine will, that there's a mitzvah of, let's say, kindness, as we said before, and kindness has the image of human responsibility and shared responsibility and love, the emotions of love and caring, compassion, and the action of giving and bestowing. And if I step into that, rather than my image I was using my hands, rather than trying to reach each other's two opposites, which is very pathetic. This is, he describes it as a man and woman trying to come together, right? In the physical act of intimacy. And they move together, and I don't mean to be graphic, or God forbid, inappropriate, but just the image is if two people deeply have such love that they want to connect together. Ahava, love, is numerical value 13, the same as echad, one, unity. That you can love someone, the more you unify, and the more you unify, you love someone. But as two separate beings, and I don't mean to be graphic, this is what he's suggesting, you could push together all you want, but you will still always be fundamentally separate. He says the true sense of love, and therefore the true sense of unity, is when you align in will, when you align what's called panim b'panim, which is a deep idea in Kabbalah connected to Sukkat, when your entire beings believe the same thing, want the same thing, feel the same thing, act in the same way. When you build, to do the act of kindness, when you raise your children together, when you do mitzvahs in your house together, and you're both aligned in vision with shared goal and same values, then you're no longer trying to become one by doing this. You're both one because you're both facing the same direction, with the same passion, with the same alignment, with the same coherence. And that's what we're aiming for the Torah spiritual perspective of psychological inner development, which is that your heart, the third stage, which is Sukkat, is that your heart itself wants what your mind wants. And your mind, let's not get this wrong, wants what your heart wants. And therefore, when you think of act of kindness, your heart is so full of love and compassion. When you think about prayer, it's not you're praying with your head, saying the words, and your heart is, running through all the things that you had to do yesterday or tomorrow, or upset about the past or the future, right? Your heart is aligned and impassioned and inspired completely and utterly by every single word coming out of your mind. And again, that creates what we've always said in elevation, the makava, that you have the intellectual alignments, you have the emotional alignment, your body's doing the action, you're saying the words of the prayer, and then you create the vessel to receive the greater light and the greater divine influx. Now, are we all still on the same page together? Say yes if you're still with me right now. Someone on our online program has their mic on. I'm going to turn that off. Let's have a quick check-in. I want everyone right now, if you're watching wherever you're in the world, to give me not a good or a bad yes or no. How's this hitting you? Give me one emotional line, how you're feeling about this, just to onboard your heart, get your heart back into the shush of the class right now. Let me see wherever you are. I want to make sure I'm trying to build a deeper model for you all. And I want to make sure we're all getting this together. Pesach says, this is my life. Belina says, enjoying. Karen says, it's a missing link. What's a missing link? Susan says, beautiful. Watching on all these mediums, everyone's coming up with different places. Come on, you can all play the game. Julie, come on, Julie, not just a yes, you know how to play this. Anna says, feeling aligned. Great. So good, these are all coming in now. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Engaged and interested, clarifying. Got it. Heart and mind want the same thing. So this is called Taharas Alev, and this is the goal of Sukkat. So the three stages are your mind overrides your heart, which is Rosh Hashanah. The second stage is we eliminate the destructive nature of the heart, the destructive patterns, the destructive energetic forces we built up in our heart. And then the fourth, and the third level is now our hearts are fully energized with positive emotional expression. So going back to my friend in the Sukkah last night, that is for sure the end game of Torah. That is for sure the end game of all spiritual development, of all emotional development. This is what I've told this story many times before. When I went to the Mind and Life Institute, the Dalai Lama in the 1990s started a dialogue with the top scientists and researchers in America called the Mind and Life Institute. It's an interesting organization where they kind of took a lot of the Buddhist teachings. They're the ones that basically mainstreamed mindfulness in America and, changed government policy and educational policy and did a lot of the scientific research behind it. And they called us in because they wanted to hear Abrahamic perspective, what's a Jewish perspective on consciousness. And we spent a few days with them and some other good friends, some Sufis and some not Christians, and talking about the Abrahamic tradition of consciousness. And I spoke to the head scientist at the end of the 3 days, I can't remember what it was, and said, what did you think? And she was really amazed by it, the kind of stuff we're giving over. And she said that one of the funny things that happens in the scientific world, in the research area of mindfulness based on Buddhism, is a lot of the scientists end up basically becoming Buddhists through the process, because they're learning about it all the time, and they find the value of it, and they take it on kind of by default. And one of the things that was very interesting that she said was, but she's always felt there was a problem with that, because she said of all the multiple Buddhist traditions that she'd explored, that there was never a path that was talked about embracing the heart or embracing positive purpose to emotion. It was all about kind of watching and dissipating the emotions. And even though she said that was better than what was taught in the West, she felt, and I think she was judging, she felt as a woman like that there was something missing there. And she said this is the first time she had heard a sophisticated, healthy, spiritual system that talked about embracing the heart. And she said, she said that line, she said, I always thought I was Buddhist, but she said, I realized I'm like you people. I'm like you people. So I thought that was a beautiful line. She does some fascinating research. You should check her out. Her name is, I've forgotten her name. I'm going to find her name. If people are interested, you'll ask me in the online forum, and I'll tell you. Willoughby Britton is her name. You should read some of her research. It's about the dark side of meditation and some of the negative fallout from that. It's definitely worth looking into. Now, so this idea, the end game of Torah is to, number 1, mind over emotion. Number 2, purify emotion. Number 3 is powerful emotion. Therefore, what we absolutely want, something elevation is very much about, and something after many years in yeshiva and all these kind of places, I realized we so much need more. And there's many big rabbis that talk about it today. We need that passion, pizzazz, and talks about it so much. All of the Baal Shem Tov's work is so much about that. And this is the gift of the Sukkah. And I want to talk about that tonight. Alidei mitzvahs of Sukkah, zirchen l'taharas alev. Through the mitzvahs, we purify our heart. The goal of purifying our heart is that we get our heart back into our domain. This is what Rebbe Nachman says. Alidei mitzvahs netilas lulav, uminav zirchen l'galas hadas, l'galas hadaas hakadosh, leidash hamalech ha'aretz kavoday. When you get your heart back, then you open up to living a life of true spiritual perception. The life of ultimate spiritual perception is called emunah. It's called the life of faith. A faith does not mean, again, actually people, it's astonishing to me, they touch and explain the word faith like I explained the unhealthy emotional stance of the first thing. Faith means that you do the right thing even when you don't feel it, okay? Isn't that faith what it means? Even if you don't connect it, have faith and do it anyway. That is now, I'm not saying there's no Torah source that explains it that way, but if Chassidus and Kabbalah explains faith is the opposite. Faith is the capacity, even when you don't feel it, to tap into a level of consciousness, as I've said many times. Baal Shem Tov says the definition of Amunah is Devekus. Faith is not something you believe in, it's a state of consciousness that you access, and through that it transforms your emotions. So I'm starting to build up a model. I'm going to go round and round until you start to see some deep connections between these things, but I'm going to make you work hard, so I want you to stick with me, okay? So we started with these 3 levels of transformation to get from destructive emotions to neutral emotions to healthy emotions, passion emotions. And that's called Taharas Alev, and that's something the Sukkah gives us. And then this idea of what faith is, what Amunah is, and the Sukkah is supposed to give us this Amunah. It's supposed to give us this purification of the heart. Listen very carefully to these words. And the idea of the purification of the heart is it takes us to a state of Amunah. Amunah is the capacity to live in the physical world in a spiritual state of consciousness until you see and experience divinity within everything. Until you see divinity in everything. Remember the word seeing, because seeing is being very, very key. According to many mystical sources, the word Sukkah actually means to see, as we're going to explore. It means to see the spirituality in the world, to see the spirituality in the world. And how do we begin to live on that spiritual state of consciousness? The answer is through purification of heart, because we see and perceive reality based on what's in our heart. Based on what's in our heart. That's why when at the elevation retreats and seminars in Morocco, when we did a 6-day retreat, we spent days and days working through emotional blocks and issues and using light and energy and Devakas to do that. And the last day we taught everyone to walk around the campus and to see divinity in everything. And then they all had these incredible spiritual experiences by looking at flowers. I always remember that famous line. There was a PhD in psychology, Professor Emeritus from a certain well-known Jewish location. And she said that, she said, I just looked at a garbage bin for the last hour and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. It was that line that always made all the audience laugh out loud, and I thought it was really, really deeply profound. To purify my heart so I can serve you be'emes. And emes means a true perception of reality, to see the truth, to see the divine truth that I can see when I purify my heart. Rabbi Zusha says, getting a bit ahead of myself, Rabbi Zusha says the lulav, the word lulav that we shake is the Rosh Tevas. The letters of lulav are the first letters of the sentence for that I purify my heart so that I can perceive you, the truth of all of reality and your divinity with all of reality. And that's the gift that the Sukkah is supposed to give us. So listen to this. Al Yedei Mitzvahs Nitilas Lulav, says Rebbe Nachman. Zerch Galus Hada'as HaKadosh, you able to reveal your higher consciousness, expanded consciousness. Leida Shamalech Ha'aretz Kavod, that you experience, not intellectually know, you experience that all of the world, Malach Ha'aretz Kavod, that all the physical reality is full of and pulsing and radiating divine light and energy. And to see and reveal divinity in everything, even in the languages of the world and even in the secular reality, you can see that. And you can see and experience Hashem even in your times of struggle and pain and difficulty. And you can bring this consciousness into the heart, that your heart will be in your reshus, that your heart will feel the things that are an extension of your true self. Not just that you know it and you do it despite your feelings, but your heart is now an extension of your true self. The feelings of your heart are a revelation of your best beliefs and values. Now he goes on and on and on about this, but I wanted to show you some of these words. And Rebbe Nachman says, and this is in many svarim, and this is already from Chazal, Al Yedei Mitzvah Sukkah, through the Mitzvah Sukkah, Zochen L'Shefa Elaki Shehi Bechinas Ruach HaKodesh. Through the consciousness of the Sukkah, I'm going to try and explain this to you, if you stick with me. We can achieve Ruach HaKodesh. This is already from the Talmud. Simcha's Beis HaShueva, it's the Simcha Beis HaShueva, the incredible joy, the travel festivals and celebrations, and the time of the temple. It's the Simcha's Beis HaShueva of drawing. The shoyev mayim, shafta mayim besasan, memayinei Yeshua. The mayinei Yeshua means the light of the waters of the revelation of the energy of the world of Bina and the world of Chachma, from the place of Yeshua, from salvation, from incredible breakthroughs, incredible understanding of your life, all the biggest blocks you can never break through. And in one moment, and Sukkah, a person is able to open up their consciousness, experience the divine truth, and access Ruach HaKodesh, and the shoyev b'Ruach HaKodesh. And what that means is there's a light called Ruach HaKodesh. And Ruach HaKodesh is how to get divine inspiration, how to access supernatural knowledge, Yediya Bli Hagdama, to know things that you shouldn't know, to understand struggles in your life you should understand, to understand the secret to get the breakthrough that you want. And even imagine that Tony Robbins doesn't have to tell you. You could figure it out for yourself in your sukkah with your lulav. That's even possible, right? And I'm going to try and explain to you the model and consciousness of how this works, the model of how that's true. So we've got all these words. We've got all these words of seeing divinity in reality through the sukkah, through the taharas alev, the purification of life, which allows us to draw down Yeshua, tremendous salvation, tremendous any block in your life, the biggest blocks in your life. We can open our heart in the sukkah in a way that not reality triggers our emotions, but our highest state emotions determine reality. That's the essence of what Torah wants to teach us, right? It's not the reality, I'm upset or angry because this person said this thing, or because it didn't go the way I wanted. And then you're living in a reality which most people do, called exile, which is when the reality determines your state, right? And reality determines your feelings. And that's the ultimate sense of exile. And the ultimate sense of redemption, of Yeshua, of Geula, of Das, is when your state actually determines reality. The love, the compassion, the vision, the seeing the divinity in all things actually transforms the hashgacha. It transforms the providence. It determines it. You love that person so much that your love actually heals them, right? You are so confident that the outcome will be good. Your confidence actually creates a better outcome. And that's what it means. Ultimately, that's what Torah is aiming for, that you have such coherence, such inner alignment, that your state, your mind, your emunah, your betachan generates the positive reality, the geula consciousness that we all want to experience. We're not waiting for geula. We're triggering it through the coherence, through that alignment. And then we have true perception, and we can perceive the divinity in all things and the goodness in all things. And now I'm just giving you the Rosh Tevas. I'm giving you the introduction. How is this possible? I want to try and explain this a little, and we're leading up to a meditation tonight. Any questions so far? People are still with us. You can ask a question. You can write that in the box. You can write that online, wherever you are. Hello to everyone watching in all the different mediums. There's about 100 people out there right now in the world. It's a pleasure to be with you all here tonight. Now Sukkah Shalom from Yerushalayim, the Sukkah's David, the Makam Amigdash. I want to talk a little about how Sukkah is supposed to shift our consciousness, how Sukkah is supposed to purify our heart, and then do a meditation to allow that to come in. The Zohar Kodesh says on Sukkah, he says, "Kish yoshev b'Sukkah, yachshav v'yavakesh yavo la'amuna, al yidei sheyeshuv b'tzila dimhe menusa." When we sit in a Sukkah, the main thing you should be doing is asking Hashem to fill you with Amunah, to heal your Amunah, to heal your broken Amunah, to fill your heart with divine light, so much so that you only see divine light in the world. That is the work of the Sukkah. And the Makifim and the tremendous light that floods into us gives us that ability. That we think about, we meditate on, we connect to, we mavakesh, we ask, that we can come to a state of consciousness called Amunah. Sukkah is called the Tzila Dimhe Menusa in the Zohar, the shade of faith. When life is hot and oppressive and overwhelming, we find shade in Amunah, in faith. Now I'm going to try and explain something to you very, very deep. Hashem should help. It'll take a few minutes to do this, and I hope you can understand, and I hope I have Siyata Dishma to get the sound in the right way. Ruach HaKodesh means divine inspiration. Yediyah bli Hagdamas, to know things that you didn't know you know. It just comes to you. It's a gift that a person can see to the source of reality, the spirit to their soul, to the soul within the people they're speaking to. They're not speaking to the people in front of them, they're speaking to the Shorosh Neshama, and their soul connects to their soul, and their light connects to their light, and they're able to know things about them. When they're in the physical world, they're in it but not of it. They're expressing into it, but they're not absorbed into it. Their consciousness is in a higher place. And that's how they gain and receive that clarity, and that's how they gain and receive Amunah. One of the greatest elements of Ruach HaKodesh we need is the ability to understand why are we facing the struggles we're facing. Why am I facing the illness and sickness I'm facing? Why are my children going through the trauma that they're going through? Why is my job always blowing up in the same way that's always blowing up? So Ruach HaKodesh is not just a party trick. It's not just a psychic ability. People mamish that I've met have spent years, decades, digging in the wrong place, trying to solve their life's problems. And then suddenly in a moment, in a gift of revelation, they can understand, wow, is this why I'm suffering through that? Is this the cause of the physical illness? Is this the cause of that trauma, that fear I had? I never realized. And then the solution is not far away. So one of the greatest gifts of Ruach HaKodesh is it helps us unlock our suffering. And therefore Ruach HaKodesh is deeply connected to Emunah. Now, there's something I'm trying to say and I'm struggling to say, and I'm going to try and talk it out a little. I hope you can bear with me. Ruach HaKodesh means divine inspiration, psychic, supernatural knowledge, and downloads. But if you translate the literal words, it means Ruach and Kodesh. What does it mean, Ruach and Kodesh? Your Ruach means your soul. But we know that there's 5 levels of the soul: the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, the Chai, and the Yechida. And we know they correspond to the levels of consciousness we've been talking about. The levels of soul, there's the body, which is the Nefesh, the level of consciousness, the level of soul that causes the body to exist, that has the wisdom, that it knows how to keep the heart beating, that knows how to create a child. The woman's body creates the child. But it's really the Nefesh that has that wisdom and sustains the physical life and vitality within the body. And then the next level up of the soul is called the Ruach, and that's corresponding to the heart. So the Ruach means spirit, and it means soul, but it's the spirit and the soul on a strict Kabbalistic level that is embodied in the heart. And therefore Ruach HaKodesh, literally, Kodesh means holy, pure, aligned, attached to its source, spiritually vibrant. So Ruach HaKodesh literally translates as spiritually vibrant heart, a spiritually elevated heart. When we face struggle and our fears are awakened, our ego is triggered, we become blinded. We become blinded to seeing Hashem in our life. We become blind to seeing truth in the world. We become blind to seeing when I want something, I don't get what I want, and I'm angry about how the situation unfolded. I become blind to see what is the good within the situation. The famous line we all know, life is not happening to you, life is happening for you. Right? Now that's a very nice line, and we all like to say it in 2019. But the truth is we can't see that something good is here, even though I didn't get what I want, because I'm so angry or jealous or hurt I didn't get what I want, that I'm blinded from seeing the higher truth, the higher goodness, the higher light, the higher revelation in that situation. And therefore my fear blinds me. Desire destroys our capacity to perceive the truth. Our fear destroys our capacity to perceive the truth. Our ego destroys our capacity to perceive the truth. That's why we say, Lulav, Rebbe Nachman says, if I purify my heart, if I elevate my heart, if my heart is feeling passionate, holy, elevated emotions, then I can see the truth. So even though I know life is not happening to me, it's happening for me, when I don't get that thing that I want, I don't get the thing that I expected, I hoped for, then I'm so angry because I'm so disappointed, then it just feels like it's happening to me. And I lose my Ruach HaKodesh. I lose my capacity to perceive the greater good, the greater value, what the situation is causing me to work on, the incredible gift here, the supernatural revelation in this challenge, in this moment of darkness. Why? Because in my Ruach, I have a Ruach Tumah. My heart is full of anger or full of sadness or full of feelings of rejection, and therefore I'm blinded to Emunah. I'm blinded to truth. I'm blinded to light. But when my heart is purified, hey, I want this. Hey, I didn't get this. hey, but my heart doesn't feel fear or ego because I eliminate that on the Yom Kippur, I've overcome that, then my heart still feels, well, there must be good here, there must be blessing here. And then my heart is a Ruach HaKodesh, and therefore my eyes are opened, and my spiritual receptivity is still able to receive the divine insight and download to why this is happening to me. Often the mystics say something very profound, that when a person faces a challenge, when the challenge is delivered to us in the area of the physical realm, we receive a download in our soul of why we need to go through those challenges, right? And therefore I go, hey, here's a challenge. Oh, this is why I'm going through it. That's fine, I can handle it. But because our fear and our blocks come up, we are unable to access and receive that. And therefore all I do is face the darkness, but I don't know why am I facing the darkness? Why am I going through that struggle? Does everyone understand what I'm saying? So with that in mind, Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, Amunah, the clarity to see divine and goodness and revelation in all things, comes through purity of heart. Does that make sense to anybody? Is anyone understanding what I'm saying right now? I feel I'm kind of talking to myself. So, listen to these words about a sukkah. And all this is to explain to you what the sukkah is, what the energy of the sukkah is, and what the blessing of the sukkah is. Listen how Rebbe Nachman defines Munah. And there's so many definitions of Amunah. In the first Torah, Rebbe Nachman, right at the beginning, Ki ish ha-Yisraeli tzarich tamid lehistakel b'haseichel shel kol davar lakasha atzmo el hachachma b'haseichel sheyesh b'chol davar kidei she'ir loi haseichel sheyesh b'chol davar le'izkarev l'Hashem yisbarach al yedei asoi hadavar ki haseichel hu or gadol u'ma'ir loi b'chol derachav k'mo shekasav chachmas adam te'ir panav. The definition of what Torah wants us to be is that we are people that we need to constantly tamid lehistakel, to look, to perceive the divine wisdom that exists within all things in reality, within all moments, within all people, and with all objects. Literally in every piece of food that you eat has divine revelation. Literally every person you meet has a divine soul. Literally the hashkach in every situation has a divine gift and revelation within it. And the definition of what it means to be Yisrael is what we need to learn to keep our spiritual sensitivity, our das hagadol, our spiritual sensitivity, perceptive ability, awareness, consciousness, open and tuned in constantly, to be able to perceive the divine light and wisdom in everything, in every person, in every moment. That's exactly everything Torah is teaching us to be. And it says, number one is to perceive it. Number two, and to connect to it. That means when I'm eating the apple, when you're eating the apple, you're staring at the taste, oh, the sweetness, oh, the crispness, oh, the color. You're focusing on the body, you're not focusing on the soul. And therefore you eat the food and the food's nice and you move on, but there's a soul in that apple. There's literally energy, and the energy is physically, emotionally, and spiritually more healthy and more sustaining and more transformational than just the body, than the apple itself. When you interact with a person, don't interact with their connections, their money that they can get you, networking with them, how they can fulfill your desires. See their soul and interact with their soul. In every moment in life, don't say, how's this going to fulfill my needs? How's it going to fulfill my ego? Try and see what is the divine purpose within it. So the first step, Rebbe Nachman says, is to see divinity and the light and the seichel and the chokhmah, the divine revelation within all things. The second is to interact with that thing based on that perception. Interact with people actually interacting with their soul rather than interacting with their body, rather than interacting with their psychology. This is the secret, by the way, of all forgiveness, which I've been blessed to learn very deeply in the last few days. I finally found an incredible tool to help with forgiveness. I'll teach it eventually. I still have to work on it a bit more for myself. But if you tune into the soul of the person you're trying to forgive, you'll find that you can forgive them much faster and feel it melt away. So the first is you see the divinity in all things. The second is you actually connect and interact and interface with the divinity, the soul of the thing, not the body of the thing. When you connect to the light itself within the food, the light itself within the money, the light itself within the sexual act, the light itself within that person, the light itself within that moment, will actually draw you to Hashem, towards revelation, through the physical world. Here's the unbelievable secret of Emunah. It's not, I'm not going to eat because I want to be spiritual. It's not, I'm not going to have sexual relations because I want to be spiritual. It's not, I'm going to not make money because I want to be spiritual. If you enter the physical world, but find the divinity within every moment, if you go through a challenging moment in your life, God forbid of sickness, God forbid of financial loss, God forbid of divorce or pain, but you find the divinity in it and you interact with the divinity and not the external part of the situation, the physical immersion, the physical challenge, the taiva ego, whatever substance you're engaging in, will actually guide you to higher revelation and light, to higher consciousness itself. Now, this sounds like I've gone off the subject, but I hope you're going to see how it all comes together. Through the physical thing, through the davar, you can come close to divine revelation. Because the divine wisdom in everything is an incredible light, a great light, an or gadol. And that divine light is shining to you in every object, in every person, and in every moment of hashgacha. I never know how to say divine providence, in everything that happens to you, all the happenings of your life. Fine. Rebbe Nachman is teaching us the secret of Sukkah here, the secret of Emunah here. The secret of Emunah, tonight we're holding in mind the yartzeit of Rebbe Nachman, Sadiq Yesod Olam, Rebbe Nachman Ben Feige, the extraordinary tzaddik whose neshama is not just his Torah is incredible, not just his avodah is incredible, not just his Kev and Sion in Uman is so electric, but his neshama is busy in our generation. I've said many times, I think the two souls that are most alive in our generation are that you hear a lot of people talk supernatural experiences about is very much the Lubavitcher Rebbe and very much the neshama of Rebbe Nachman, and so many miracles and blessings and amazing things happen through them. Listen very carefully, my friends. Rebbe Nachman says there's two ways you can view reality. There's two ways you can view every object in the world. One is by seeing the body and interacting with the body. And one is by seeing the soul and interacting with the soul. You can eat the food and focus on the physical substance of the food. And you can learn meditational techniques to eat the food, but as you're eating the food, you're actually interacting with the divine light within the food. In fact, according to Kabbalah, the reason we say a blessing is actually, and this is very deep, and we're not up to teaching this yet, but the reason you say a blessing when you make the food is to draw light down into the divine spark within the food, to make that overwhelm the physical sensation of the food, so that it will be more easy to connect to the soul of the substance and not the body of the substance. Isn't that fascinating? That basically in the elevation, when we do the 7-day retreats, and we did this in Morocco, is we all prayed and brought light down into the food before we ate the food. And therefore you actually feel a substantial change of the food and of the eating experience. You draw more light and consciousness from the food, because you're supposed to pray for the food, pray for the light of the food before you eat. I understand that's very weird. There's a way when you interact with a person, you're either interacting them based on your needs or their needs, right? But mostly your own needs, your ego needs. But there's a way that you can tune into the consciousness of the person in the depth of the infinite divine soul and interact with them based on their divine soul. And the Baal Shem Tov teaches techniques that when you're helping a person, you're interacting with a person. I've taught this many times. You can see this in the Primal Chassidus classes where I talk about this. Well, when you teach classes where you're helping people, first you connect yourself with this kashrus to Hashem, and then you choose to connect yourself to that person, and then you choose to connect them to the divine light. So you help them by drawing light into them to empower the light with them, and therefore they are more illuminated, and therefore you can interact with the Chachma and the Seichel Shebechol Davar. So there's two ways, if you're watching this, and again, I sound like I'm going over the place, but I'm going to try and pull this together so you see a very, very profoundly deep picture of psychology, of consciousness, of spiritual development, of meditation, and Sukkahs and Lulav as well. And then we'll end with a meditation technique, if we can get there. There are two ways to interact with all reality. One is to see divinity in everything, or one is to see divinity in nothing. You either see the world as a physical object, you see that person as flesh and blood with their own issues, that I like that person or I don't like that person, etc. Or you see that soul, or you see that spark. You either go through that situation in life and see Hashem loves me and it's all a blessing and it's all good. Gam zu l'toiva, this is also for the good. The zu is bechinas malchus, the place of the sitra achra, the place of the darkness where I don't see the Hashem. But gam zu, this darkness is also a revelation of light. This, right? So I see this Chachma, the Seichel Shebechol Davar, or I only see the externality of the thing. I only see externality of the food, of the person, right? And when I only see the externality of the person, what I'm actually doing is perceiving the world through my desire. That means desire destroys your capacity to perceive the truth. That means I'm seeing the cake, the famous elevation chocolate cake exercise. When I see the cake, I don't see divinity, because the stronger my desire is for that food, the more blinded I am to the divinity within the food. The more I have to gain from the person I'm speaking to, you know, they want to give me money, they're going to give me approval, they're going to be validation, they're going to give me something that pleases me, the more blinded I am to seeing their soul. One of my favorite rabbis, Avram Brosser, when I was first becoming a teacher, and I was speaking to him about, you know, what it means to be a good teacher, I remember him saying such a profound, beautiful line. I was blessed to really try to take this to heart. I said, what's the secret to really helping people? And he said a beautiful line. He says, when you sit down in front of someone and you're there to help them, say in your own mind, there's nothing at all I want or need from this person. There's nothing at all I want or need from this person. And commit to that, and you'll see, he says, then you will know who they are, and then you will know how to help them. But if there's something you want, even that they should laugh at your jokes, that they think you're a smart and clever rabbi, whatever it is, whatever we want from people, it blinds you. Because now I always bent in the direction, I have the tear to kind of go in a direction to fulfill my desires, and I don't see the person, I don't see the problem, I don't see the chachma, the seichel, the divinity within them, because I'm blinded, because I want to get out of them what my ego needs from them. Are we following this together? So Rebbe Nachman is saying the two ways we interact with reality is to see divinity in all things, or to see physicality in all things. And what are we saying? The physicality is a reflection of my own desires. That's why the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh always says, you should love your friend as yourself. What does it mean you love your friend as yourself? Which basically means if you see that they're angry and you're judging them as being angry, you're only seeing the anger in them, because the whole world is a spiegel, the whole world is a mirror, because you're of anger. You're projecting onto others what's within yourself, or you notice in others what's within yourself. And this is what we said, so listen very carefully. We're going to slowly wind these together, slowly. I'm building something. Stick with me if you can get it. Your capacity to see divinity in all things requires a pure heart. And if you have Taharas Alev, then your eyes will be illuminated and you will see divinity in all things. The Chacham L'Seichel Shebechol Davar. But if your heart is not pure, it's not an issue of your head over your heart. As I've said many times, you said in Elevation, the definition of free will is not a battle between two actions, but it's a battle between two perceptions. If you think of any place in your life where you've had, should I do A or should I do B? Right? Should I give the money to the person or should I not give the money to the person? Give the tzedakah, not give the tzedakah. It's not really a battle fundamentally. This is what Rebbe Nachman implies if you go into the next part of the Torah, the perception of Yaakov versus the perception of Esav. I don't want to get into that right now. I'm hoping to do a series on L'Kutei Moharan eventually. It's something very close to my heart. And I hope to get it. It's on a long list of 1 billion things to teach to the world. Hashem should help in the right time. But the decision of whether I should give money to the poor person or not is not a decision of, well, it's the right thing to do. Nah, let them get a job. It's really, I look at this person through the eyes of din, or I look at this person through the eyes of kindness and love, of judgment or love and compassion. And when you look at that person through the eyes of love and compassion, of course you want to help them. And when you look at that person through the perception of din, of anger, of aggression, then of course you're like, din means block, separations. It's them versus me. It's me versus them. The essential act of chesed and Kabbalah and Chassidus always means expansion and interconnection. Kindness comes. That's what Abraham was, constantly did kindness for people, and his middle was love, because the essence of love is a consciousness of perception of the interconnectivity between all things. And when you perceive that you are interconnected with everybody, you naturally give to them. It's not a question, because you don't see them as different to you. You see that the money you have is their money, because everything is one. Where din is the opposite. Din is you versus me in a world of fragmentation and separation, and therefore I need tremendous justification to take from me, therefore I lose and give to you, and now you have, right? Zeh kam v'zeh nafel. That's the ace of perception of reality to some degree. So if you understand what I'm saying, rewinding the perception of, do I see a physical world or do I see a spiritual world? Do I see the interconnectivity of all things, or do I see that we're all separate beings floating in a big, space and time bubble called, the universe? Or do I see divinity illuminated in all things, all time? So listen very carefully to this. If you purify your heart, if desire destroys your capacity to perceive the truth, and purification of heart allows you to achieve Amunah. And Amunah is the code word. Amunah is a code word for the capacity to not see the vessels of the world, but to see the light they contain. Amunah means to not see the vessels in the world, but to see through the vessels to the light it contains. I don't see the food, I see the light within the food. I don't see the person, I see the soul within the person. I don't see the challenge in that moment, I see the blessing within that moment. That's what it means to see Amunah. That's what it means to live with Amunah. And Amunah requires Ruach HaKodesh. Amunah gives you Ruach HaKodesh, but it also requires a pure heart. The pure heart opens you up to Amunah, and Amunah means to see the divine revelation in all things. Are we following those together? Give me a out of 10. How much are you getting the pattern of what I'm trying to weave together for you tonight? This is not a linear step-by-step session. That takes me a lot of time to build. I'm trying to crash together a few ideas. I'm going to unravel for you a through line, if you can bear with me through these patterns. Wow. You online as well. There's so many different people in so many different places. Great. Okay. So we're in there. Dr. Schiller's fluctuating between 7 and 10. I appreciate your honesty. So the key words we're exploring are Amunah, Ruach HaKodesh, the Chachma, the Seichel Shebechol Davar, to see the soul and not the body, the purification of the heart to open the higher windows of perception, of seeing divine revelation in all things at all times. We've talked about the 3 stages of development, of Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur to Sukkat. Rosh Hashanah means I will commit to the right thing, even though it goes against what I'm feeling. I will negate my heart to do the right thing. Yom Kippur is the second stage. Okay, now I'm going to eliminate the negativity in my heart, so my heart at least doesn't resist what I know to be true. And number 3 means my heart is now aligned and one, and I'm passionate and energized about that. And that, number 3, when your heart is energized and passionate, then you have alignment, you have coherence between the mind and the body and the heart. And then that opens you to higher perception, to see divinity in all things. And that perception is called Amunah. Fine. Hello, Amanda in Costa Rica. Wow. There's a view you have when you wake up in the morning. Do some renovations. We have to do a retreat there someday soon. So here we go. Now listen to this. This is all building up to what I want to say. Sukkah is called in the Zohar that Tzila Dimhe Menusa. We're living in the shadow of faith. We're living in the consciousness of Amunah. The essence of Sukkah is the following thing. And I'm going to break this down. So I just want you to get the Mishnah first, and then we'll go to the Gemara. The essence of Sukkah is to purify our heart so we go through life with Ruach HaKodesh and complete Amunah. There, I said it. The essence of Sukkah is to purify our hearts so that we go through life seeing the divinity in all things and therefore having divine inspiration constantly, no less. And we have to get our heart back into our Rishus. That's why we need Sukkahs. By Yom Kippur, we take a negativity out of our hearts. But Sukkahs, we need to get our heart, on board our hearts. We need passion, we need love, we need awe, we need, beauty. We need all these things. Sukkahs should be beautiful. We need to onboard our hearts. That's called purification of the heart, Ruach HaKodesh, which causes divine revelation, causes Now I'm going to explain that. In Sukkah, it's interesting because our sages teaches that a person that sits in a Sukkah will merit to sit in the Sukkah of the Leviathan, the Sukkah of the great, what do you call Leviathan in English? The snake, the whale, I don't know what it's called. There's a beautiful Torah. This is definitely a Hasidic drush, if you will. The base Aaron says, what does it mean that Leviathan? Usually a reward means something that tempts you, something that's nice for you. Hey everyone, if you keep Sukkah this year, I know you don't want it. If you keep Sukkah this year, you'll be able to sit in a giant snake for a long time. Okay, who wants that in? Isn't that tempting to you all? Especially the vegetarians. So there's deep things. The Leviathan really means the world of Bina, and these are very deep things. But a beautiful Hasidic Torah that Beis Arad says, a Hasidic kind of tied to the words, is the Sukkah of Leviathan is the Leviathan comes from the shorish, the root of the word Levaya. That means to escort, like Malava Malka. The Malava Malka, at the end of Shabbos, we spent the day with Shabbos, which is the Shekhinah, which is the divine presence, and we escort it, we journey with her out. So the word Levaya, Leviathan, actually means that something when you journey together, when you hold something together, when you go together as one. So he says that the true reward of sitting in the Sukkah is not that we leave the Sukkah at the end of 7 days. The true reward of sitting in the Sukkah is we have a Sukkah of the Leviathan, a Sukkah that is malava us, that the consciousness of Sukkah goes with us. It goes with us, the consciousness of Amunah, the Siladim Himinusa goes with us for the whole of the year. The consciousness of the Taharas Alev, of the Ruach HaKodesh goes with us. So that's the Sukkah Leviathan. It's the Sukkah which is Malava, which goes with us. It's a consciousness that we access during these 7 days, which stays with us for the rest of the year. And that's the game that we're playing in the Sukkah. What do you think of that Hasidic Torah? Is it nice? It's nice. I think it's nice. I'm going with it. So, with that in mind, who remembers the principle, the Mishnah? This is the one I want to show you right now. If we sit in the Sukkah, we purify our hearts that open up our consciousness to living by seeing the divinity in all things. That's called the Munah. Through purifying our hearts, which we get the Ruach HaKodesh. Fine. Listen very carefully. Here's the secret of Sukkah. The Me'or Naim says, very profound, in halacha, the essence of the Sukkah is not the walls, is not the floor, is not the fancy decorations, is not the beautiful things that my kids made on the wall behind me, even though at least they're beautiful to me. The essence of the Sukkah is the schach. Right? Here's the schach. You ready? Sneak preview. Ta-da! I know if you guys are on there, I don't know if you can see it. I don't want to start messing with this, but here's the schach. Ta-da! Wonderful. The essence of the Sukkah is the schach, and that's why, if you're paying attention, hey, here I am again. The word sachach is connected to the word sukkah, okay? It's basically the same root. And he says, therefore, halakhically, it's all based on the schach, more or less. The walls can be kind of all different variations, but the key is the schach. Now listen how very beautiful and profound this teaching is on the essence of Sukkah. Sukkah from the Me'or Naim. The shame is mora al hamahusa davar. The Maharal says the name of anything, the name of any person, the name of any festival teaches you the secret and the essence of that thing. You got that? So if you want to know what the secret of Sukkah is, and I've already preempted this to you, built up the model, but now we'll understand it a deeper way. The secret of what the Sukkah is there to teach us, ingrain within us, open up our conscious to, is in the word Sukkah. The word Sukkah, what does it mean? Listen very carefully. The word Sukkah means a schach. And the schach on the roof, which is these leaves, have certain properties. And one of the properties is tzchach. You have to have the tzchach, the leaves on your roof. Another of the properties is it's mischach, which means it covers over and conceals. If you have the walls, but it's not concealed on the roof, you don't have a sukkah. So first of all, it's these leaves. Second of all, there has to be covered over. That's another meaning of the word. Mischach means to cover over and conceal. The first meaning is schach. You got that? The actual leaves. The second meaning is literally the same Hebrew word, means to cover over and conceal. You got that? The third meaning is very, very profound. In halacha, ideally, the mitzvah of the schach should cover over, but you should still be able to see a little through it. You see Rachel's looking up to her sky to check if she can see through it, and I can see through it as well, Rachel, don't worry, it's fine. Kosher Sukkah right there. Awesome. This is very, very beautiful and very, very deep. You need to be able to see through it, and therefore the definition halakhically of a sukkah is a place where the covering can still be seen through. Ooh. In fact, the word sukkah itself, from the Baal Shem Tov, actually means to see. It means divine, supernatural perception. The pasuk he brings, like Yiska. Yiska is Sarah, right? Sarah Meinu, the wife of Abraham Avinu, of Abraham our forefather, who was, how's this for feminine empowerment years ahead of the time, was greater at divine inspiration than her husband was. That when Abraham disagreed with Sarah and went to Hashem and complained about his wife, Hashem said, be quiet and listen to your wife, because she has better prophetic ability than you do, right? So that's kind of ahead of its time. And her name, another of her names, was Yiska. Yiska is the Shorish, Samach Chav Hey, of Sukkah. And her name was Yiska because she was Soiche Baruch HaKodesh, because she could see with divine inspiration. What does it mean to see with divine inspiration? What have we said? It means to see through what I always call Jewish X-ray vision, to see through the physicality, to perceive the spirituality. The essence of Sukkah, if you're paying attention, and let's build this up again, layers upon layers, and we're going round and round. Stage 1, Rosh Hashanah. My moyach is sheltered on my life. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. Emotionally, I don't want to do it, but I push through my emotions and I do it. That is not the end game. Number 2, I work through my emotions, so at least I don't have self-sabotaging emotions, emotional resistance. Number 2, that's Yom Kippur. Number 3 is now I want emotionally charged, holy emotions. And that opens up, that's the Ruach HaKodesh, that literally means the purified emotions, the elevated positive emotions, which opens up my Ruach HaKodesh. When my emotions are aligned, when you go into Dveikus, and your emotions align in spiritually beautiful ways of awe, of love, of compassion, of beauty, of harmony, etc., then I'm able to see, as we said, Chachma Nesechel Shebechol Davar. I'm able to see through the physicality to the spirituality. How is this achieved, says Rebbe Nachman? That's called Amunah. Amunah means the capacity to see spirituality even in physicality, even in pain, even in darkness, even in struggle. Watch this very carefully. What did we just learn about Sukkah? The word Sukkah literally means 1, the schach on the roof. Number 2, to be covered over. Number 3, to see through the covered overing, the covered over nature of things. And therefore the essence of a Sukkah, the halachic essence, the schach, literally means, are you ready? To be able to see through life's coverings. That when Hashem created a physical reality, when Hashem created a physical world, it's called Shaddai. He created enough to conceal himself. But the truth is, he always leaves some light, some revelation. When you go through a time of challenge, of struggle and pain, as dark as it gets, there, as Rebbe Nachman says, a little bit of light that can be found there if you can have Ruach HaKodesh, if you can get in a state of pure heart, and you can perceive the truth and the goodness and light, not just say, even, listen very carefully, my friends, not the head overrides the heart. Okay, this sucks beyond belief, the pain, the struggle, the hurt I'm feeling right now, but I'm going to do the right thing. But what it means to see the light, he's talking spiritual perception. It means that you feel a menucha, you feel a release, you feel the expansion, and therefore, because the more you feel it, the more you see it, right? I believe it because I see it, and I see it because I believe it. So both of those things are happening together. So listen very carefully to what we're saying. The word, the essence of Sukkah, therefore, is to teach us that we go out of our houses, Adiras Keva, where the walls are thick, that we can't see through. That represents the physical world that we live in, where all I see are my desires reflected back at me, physical world and physical objects. And if the doctors say the person has cancer, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do because science says so, because nature says so, and that the darkness is real. But you're living without Yeshua, you're living without Geula, you're living without Das Gadol, you're living out without the true perception that Hashem is creating reality, Hashem creates bodies, that your consciousness is in the image of God, you can connect to Hashem, you can co-creators in reality, you can pray, you can align yourself with the Hebrew word for healing, you can literally bring down Shef and Chiz that transforms the DNA, that transforms the atoms on a cellular level, that can turn the lights on in the darkness of that disease, and mamish transform the consciousness of that being, which transforms the disease, and you have the power to do that. And you have the power to perceive that, and you have the power to see the blessing of this illness, why it had to happen to that person, and you have the power to turn that moment around. And therefore, in everything in the physical world, we know that the world itself is called the oilam. What does the word oilam mean? We know because of the word ne'elem, which means hidden. The definition of the world, according to Torah, is a place where Hashem's light is hidden. But the secret that Sukkah comes to teach us is what? Is that even in the hiddenness, even in the lavush, even the concealment, Hashem always leaves in the skach, in the covering, little holes that you can still find the light with the power of Emunah, with the power of Taharas Alev. And that's why at the time when we've gone to Yom Kippur, right, and we've gone to shul, this is very, very deep, and we spared the day in Rosh Hashanah, okay, I'm going to do the right thing, even though my heart doesn't agree with it, right, and now I'm going to purify my heart in Yom Kippur. And I'm in shul. These are very shul, synagogue-based, high spiritual worlds, kind of festivals. And then when Hashem says, "Now go out of the physical. Now go into Diras Arai, a temporary dwelling." What does it mean, a temporary dwelling? A temporary dwelling means that if you living in the world, you're in the world and you're of the world, right? Then you think that the walls are real, you think the food is real, you think sexuality is the only reality, you think money is as good as it gets, and you think the challenge that you're facing in life is rock solid and rock hard. You don't see that all the atoms and all the structures of reality are being literally generated and pulsing into reality at every moment, and therefore they are fluid and they are open to influence, right? They are open to influence by our consciousness. That's quantum mechanics, and our mind and our consciousness can massively shift them at any given moment. And the world is a temporary dwelling, which means unstable in the best possible way. That can be influenced, and we can find divinity, we can find light, we can find possibility even when it isn't. So, and more than that, in the time of Sukkat, it's supposed to be in your house. It's very, very deep. It's not a shul-based thing. It's in your house, because what you do is you're supposed to go out of your house. The house is the perception that this is concrete, that the world is real and it's rock solid, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nature has its course, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we come into a temporary dwelling that the walls are unsubstantial and the wind blows and everything shakes, because that shows you, what's that showing you? It's showing that see the physical reality as temporary, so you can perceive the spiritual truth, the chokhmah and the seichel shebechol davar within it. Is everyone understanding that? And it's very, very deep, because when we come into the sukkah, we're supposed to bring our chairs, our tables, our food. We're only supposed to eat in the food in the sukkah. According to some mystical writings in the halakha, a person's supposed to have physical intimacy in the sukkah. What does that mean? All the things that you do of physicality, you're supposed to bring into the consciousness called Bina, called Makif, called light of revelation, called Hasagas Eliki. You're supposed, all the physical things that you engage in life, you're supposed to bring in the consciousness, bring within the bubble, within the consciousness, which empowers our spiritual perception of those physical things. And we do it within our home, because the home is the place where we live. The shul is the place which represents moving towards the light, moving towards revelation. But the home is the mundane reality we come to, the structure, the limitations, the blocks, the disease, my bad job, my family with their issues, and all this stuff. That's where I can't see Hashem. And the Sukkah says, here you're going to purify your heart. So electric, so holy, so beautiful, so much light. You're going to see even in the food you eat, even the dishes, even in the furniture, even the physical intimacy. And therefore you bring them in to this energetic field. The Sukkah is an energetic field that opens our consciousness to see in all the physical things we engage with in the house, in our life, with our family, to find the Chachma and the Sechel Shebechol Devar, to find the light within that. To do that in the consciousness of a Sukkah. Lay shave the Sukkah. Is it making sense to anybody? Okay, I need a one-line emotional check-in from everybody watching, whatever medium on right now. Don't say good or bad. Check in with how are you experiencing what I'm saying right now? I want to bring everything into this consciousness of faith. Everything in this consciousness of true perception. Everything into the consciousness, the Chachma, the Sechel, Shebechol Devar. Because I want to learn to see. That's what Rebbe Nachman was saying. I want to learn to see in the food that I'm eating, the divinity. I want to learn to see in my family and the dishes, divinity. I want to learn to see in physical intimacy, divinity. And I want the electrically charged field of divine light, of what's called a makiv, of what's called bina. I want all those fields to be around me and to transform my consciousness. And that's what the Zohar Kodesh was saying, that here's the place where I'm doing the work of Emunah, because I'm going through all the details of my life and all the physical objects in my life and all my family in my life and all my history in my life, and I'm trying to perceive the Chachma, the Sechel, Shebechol Devar, the revelation in every single one of them. You want a beautiful Torah from the Ma'or Shemesh. He says the Gemara in Sukkah, I think it's Chaf Bet, page 22. There's an interesting halacha that we follow, that l'chatchila, ideally halachically, not only supposed to see through the Sukkah. It's an incredible teaching. You're supposed to be able to see the stars while you're sitting in the Sukkah. It's a very, very beautiful halacha, just the boring Jewish law, if you understand what I'm saying. But then the secrets of the universe and these boring Jewish laws, halacha is literally practical Kabbalah. Halacha literally is, if you understood the mystical secrets of all reality and of all of consciousness, then this is how you would live. So halacha is just, if it's boring to you, if it's something you don't understand, then it's just like you haven't accessed the true secret of it, and you turn it on and you have to find the chachma and the seichel sheba chol halacha. Is really what Rebbe Nachman Sefer show as well. That's what the Kutei Halachas is for. Now, coming back to this point, why, according to the spiritual masters, what is the secret of needing to see the stars through the schach of the Sukkah? And he says, so beautiful, it's so beautiful. He says, what is a star? When I first heard this, my mind kind of exploded, and I didn't really know what to do with it. I heard it from another source. Again, a star is, in scientific perception, an explosion of gaseous substance, exploding and, emanating light and energy and all these kind of things. That was not a very scientific definition. It's the best that I can do. Not much sleep in my sukkah. I'm not Kabbalistic, but I should be, because I can't sleep in sukkahs because there's so much energy. But I keep trying, and therefore, if I was Kabbalistic, it'd be much easier for me to just go to bed outside. According to Kabbalah, stars are the bodies of angels. A star is the body of an angel. And this is the understanding in astrology of why we look to stars in astrology, not astronomy, but astrology, is because stars are the windows from the highest spiritual worlds. The Ramchal discusses this, and how the highest spiritual worlds, the point of interface between the energetic influx of the spiritual world and this physical world is through the stars. So stars are windows and vessels by which tremendous supernatural energy and influx and influence flood down into this physical reality as we know it. And therefore, while a star appears to be an infinitesimally small little dot in the sky, it actually contains with it the point in the physical reality where divine revelation floods through. It's a tiny little thing with infinite light embodied within it, infinite light passing into us. Ma'or Hashem is something very profound. Why do we need to see a star? Stars in the Sukkah. He says because the star really is the essence of the Sukkah. And watch, it's the same pattern I'm showing you over and over again, my friends. A star, the word for star is the word koichav. Koichav. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because the light is behind me. Koichav. I think this is probably useless. No, there it is. Great. Koichav. Now, if you break down the numerical value of the word, it's very, very deep. I split the word kochav. Kochav means a star into two. The first part of the word is 26, and the second part of the word is 22. You guys got that? Not if you have. Even if you don't have video, just participate with everyone else. Thank you. Appreciate that high level of audience interaction. So kochav is 26. 26, everyone knows, is the name Havaya, is the numerical value of the divine name of Hashem. 22, as everybody knows, is the number of letters in the Hebrew Aleph base. So, the Hebrew Aleph base is what Hashem created the world with. The Aleph base, the ABCs in Hebrew, is like Sefer Yetzirah teaches us, like the Baal Shem Tov teaches us, that all of reality is made of 22 fundamental particles or energies, and they are the building blocks, the genetic material to which all of reality is structured, these 22. And therefore, everything that is made up of these letters, the whole process, which we're going to start learning soon in Elevation, is the Baal Shem Tov's mechanism of prayer, which is one of the highest experiences of all prayer experiences, is that rather than, it's amazing what he says, is rather than think about the meaning of the words in the Siddur in the prayer book, Baruch Atah Hashem, he actually says, don't think at all when you pray. Just put your attention on the word and just draw it out without any other thoughts in your head. And when you learn how to do this properly, there's a few tricks you need to know. You get struck by incredible energy from every letter. Because while a letter is just a small, single little particle, it carries within it tremendous light and tremendous electricity and tremendous energy, tremendous chiyas, tremendous shefa. The Baal Shem Tov says the secret of Tefer is prayer, is the ideas of Olamas, Neshamas, and Elikus. We're talking about in our Sukkah today, which is the idea that listen very carefully. I'm going to, a little deep, if you bear with me, you see some very incredible things coming up, if you can stick with me. The word itself and the sound of the word and the structure of the letters is the vessel, is the kli, is the vessel. And within that is divine light, is Elikus, is Shechina. And divine light means that you can experience incredible electricity, incredible divine light. And the way that you get the light out of the vessel is with consciousness, is neshamas. When you put your consciousness on the vessel and clear it, then you draw light out of the vessel. Now you see how that's Rebbe Nachman's idea again, that there's chachma and sekel shebachol davar. Within every single object, every vessel, then what you have is the vessel, but you have light within it that you could see it, or you can see the vessel. You can see it's a word, Baruch. Oh, Hashem should bless us. Very nice. But there's incredible light there if you can put your attention on it. Now listen very carefully to this. And therefore, the Hebrew letters represent these small, tiny little particles, tiny little atoms, tiny little genetic codes, but within them is infinite light. You understand that? So he says the secret of a star is just like a letter, because all of reality is made up of letters. Remember, how did Hashem create the world? He spoke. Hashem created trees, Hashem created sunset, Hashem created light and darkness, Hashem created people by speaking them into being. And that's a way of saying Hashem combined primary scientific elements, energies, atoms, genetic material, whatever they are, and he combined them in certain orders to create a vibrational frequency that became a certain object, it became a certain person, became a certain chemical, a certain property. And within, therefore, in all of reality, there is these little things, there's these little details, these little mundane objects. Here's a, a glass, and here's a pen, and here's sophisticated technology called pads, what are they called? Boxes, earplugs, But within them, within all of reality, there's infinite light. So Moed Naim says, Moed Shemesh says, if you're still following, he says, what a star is there to teach us is a little infinitely small object can actually have infinitely great light. A tiny small object can have infinitely great light flooding in it and flooding through it. You got that? It can be a great house for infinite light. And he says that's the secret, because the Aleph base, all of the Aleph base, all of the basic things have the Hashem Havaya, the infinite light within. The Havaya, the 26, is really embodied within the vessels of the letters themselves. So just like the simple letters have infinite light to reveal them, so too the stars. The tiny stars in the sky actually have, they look very small, but literally the heavens and the divine revelations flooding through them. He says that's the secret of the Sukkah. The Sukkah is that the vessels of this world that seem to conceal really have great revelation in them if you can shift your attention to them. And if you understand that, so the next level, which is very profound, the word itself for Sukkah, and some of you know this, will understand this in a deeper way. The word itself for Sukkah, which looks like this. This is such a deep Torah. This is the word Sukkah. It's actually numerical value, everybody knows this, 91, which is the combination of two of the divine names, the Shem Havaya, the name of infinite transcendence and light, and the Shem Adnos. I'll say it once, Adonai. And Adonai means the vessel, the physical world. Now therefore the name of a Sukkah is actually numerical value 91, which is, listen very carefully if you get this, it's very, very deep, which is a combination of the divine infinite light, the infinite love, the Abba, the beyond boundaries, right, the infinite love, and also the divine name, which represents the embodiment in physicality, the embodiment of vessels. So that's the name of Adonai, which is the limited one, the vessel, Hashem revealed in physicality, in the details, and then 26 was the infinite light. But even more deeper, if you're still watching this, here's the incredible secret. Watch the letters right now. The mystics say that it's the outer two letters, the Samach and the Hey, which make up 26, which is the name of divine revelation, of infinite revelation. No, I'm sorry, I got that back to front. Let's start again. Did I get that back to front? Good. It's the inner two letters, watch this, is very deep, which got Vav and Chaf, which make up 26, which is the name of infinite light, infinite revelation. And the outer two letters are Samach Hey, which are the word Adonai, which represents the name of the divine vessel, the physical manifestation rather than the transcendent. And the mystics say, here's the deep part, that when you look at a sukkah, on the outside, you see the name of God, which represents physicality, the vessel. But if you pierce through the external into the internal, then there hiding within is the divine revelation. So therefore, the external parts of the name represent the part of the external revelation of Hashem in physicality. But the internal part of the name, hidden within it, is what? Is divine revelation. So this is like the stars, the kochav that you're supposed to see through the schach. Now let's put it all together. You're starting to build this right now. The stars represent an external little vessel. It's a little dot from Earthsake, but there's infinite light coming through it. On the outside, the Shem Adonai is numerical value 65, which is the same numerical value as the word Heichel. The Heichel, which means the room, the vessel, the Kli, the Teva, the word only, but not the light within it, that externality. But on the inside is infinite divine revelation. What did Rebbe Nachman say? There has to be the Chachman, the Seichel Shebachol Davar. We can look at the external thing in the world, or we can purify our minds and purify our hearts and open up the doors of perception and then see the Chachman, the Seichel, divine light within it. What is the definition of the Sukkah? It's Schach, the word Schach, which means it's a cover over that you could also see through. The essence of Sukkah is Amunah. What is Amunah? It's the capacity to find the divine revelation of the Yud Kei Vav Hei, of the divine revelation of light, of energy, of bliss, of infinite connection, of transcendence, of outside space and time, of the interconnectivity of all things, the shlemus, the unity, the hasagas eloki, the or makif, the power of bina, is to see the divine revelation and to see that that is hidden even in the vessel of the physical world, even in the limitation of the finite, even in my body, even in food, even in sexuality, even in money, even in the struggle of reality. Here in the vessel is hidden the light. And Sukkah is the ability to open my mind to the Tziladim Himenusa, to purify my mind, to see the truth. The definition of Emunah is the capacity to see the light hidden within the vessel. And the power of the Sukkah is to purify our hearts so we can once again see the truth. And that's why all of Sukkah is about purification of the heart. You've heard me talk about these things before. We said lulav is the Rosh, as Rebbe Zusha says, V'tar helabena la'avdecha v'emes, to purify my heart, to perceive divine truth and wisdom in all things. The word lulav itself, according to the Tikkunei Zohar, means loy lev. To that person there will be a heart. Loy lev, right? That means I'm going to take my heart back, because what happens is there's this light around us which is called the makif, the light of potential infinite energy, the light of it's an energetic frequency that expands our consciousness and allows us to see the world new and afresh and the divinity within it. But what we do is with the lulav and esrog, what we do is we bring that light from around us, we bring it into us. And this is the key of the meditation. The Ariya Kadosh says that when a person, at least for the first time each day, shakes their lulav and esrog, they should be within the sukkah itself. Why should they be within the sukkah itself? Because when you're reaching out, let's say you start the first one, chesed, there are 6 primary desires of the heart. And we want to purify our heart and all the levels of our heart so that we can perceive divinity within all things again, which is the natural state. That what I wanted to say to my friend last night, Jay in the Sukkah, was that the natural state of a human being is to have holy, positive emotions. That was the natural state of Adam and Rishon, of Adam and Chav in the Garden of Eden. The fact that emotions are so destructive that we have to willfully override our emotions to live a constructive life, at least not a self-destructive life, is not the innate state of human consciousness. The innate state of human consciousness is our emotions are positive and holy and aligned with our mind. And therefore, because we have fallen and we now have to metaken our midas, we have to fix and heal our midas, which you do in Yom Kippur. Now what we want to do is, I take the 6 sides of the light of the Sukkah, I take the lulav, which represents the heart, and the esrog that represents the heart, and I literally bring it up into the infinite light of kindness, of infinite divine loving compassion. That's in the world called Zah, and in the world called Zah, right? In that world, there's the infinite purified light of the purified heart. Until I take my heart and I literally put it into that electrified energetic field of infinite love, and then I draw that back down, as the Rebbe says, mamish has to touch my heart. I draw that back down, mamish into my heart, to bring that infinite love, to give my heart to Havas Alev, that now I've returned my heart to infinite love and infinite joy in my life. And then I take the fear of my heart, right, and I basically hold it up to the field of energy of infinite awe, of healthy fear, of balance, of harmony, of structure, of discipline, of awe, of the aware, of respect, of awe, divine awe, and I lift it up till it's purified in that place, and I draw that back into me, that's purifying the doors of perception, purifying all the dimensions of my heart, so that I'm returned to a state of true perception, to see the divinity in all things. And that's why when I have the lulav, I'm holding the Abba Minam, which is known in Halakha as the lulav, loy lev, that's how I return my heart. It literally means the esrog is called the heart, and the esrog is the same letters as of tarag, which means yearning, the yearning of the heart. I'm purifying the heart. I know even the when we sit in the sukkah, we say the mitzvah sheket hashanah b'mitzvah v'tivana leishay b'sukkah. You have to make sure if this is your first time in a sukkah this year, pick up some azoinas, some crackers, some cake, and make the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu leishev b'sukkah. And what you're literally saying is, draw down Hashem's divine light that you've told me to be in the Sukkah, leishev b'sukkah, to sit and dwell in the Sukkah. What that means is that I'm placing my heart in the Sukkah and purifying my heart to once again see holiness in the world, to once again have my heart return to its state of heightened spiritual joy and love and holy positive, Ruach HaKodesh, holy positive emotional expression, to once again have Ruach HaKodesh to perceive truth and goodness. And that's why the mitzvah leishev b'sukkah is literally the same letters as yesh leiv b'sukkah. Not leishev b'sukkah, but yesh leiv. I have a heart again in the Sukkah. I have Ruach HaKodesh again in the Sukkah, my natural state. I have true perception in the Sukkah. I have the Tziladim Hemanusai. I can see divinity in all things. I can see the light in the stars, in the small aleph base in this world. I can see that even the covenants and concealments of this world, I can see through them and understand the meaning. That is the Ruach HaKodesh, that is the Emunah. And I purify my mind, I purify my heart, and I bring all the food and all the drink and physical intimacy and my sleeping and the going to bed and the waking up, and I live in the state of the Diras Keva, not from the Diras Keva, the Diras Arai, that the whole world, the property of cells and the structure reality of what we call nature is really temporary, and really my consciousness can tell and dictate to reality what it can do, and I no longer fall for the delusion that the world is physical and tangible and locked in, that now anything becomes possible and I can see divinity in all things. And that literally is Sukkah Baruch HaKodesh. The Sukkah literally means to see with divine inspiration. Sukkah comes with the term Sukkah Baruch HaKodesh, and it's there to give me the eyes, l'hestakel b'chachma and the sechel sheb'chol davar, to once again see as we were born innately to be able to do, see divinity in all things, see goodness in all things, in objects, in people, in places, in times, and that is the revelation. With that, the year ends, and that's panim b'panim. Then the Malchus returns to the Zohar, and we can receive divine inspiration constantly, and that is the blessing, to learn to see divinity in all things again, learn to feel in a healthy way again, to get our hearts back and to get Hashem back in our hearts and our lives. And that, my friends, is the secret of Sukkah. Okay, that took a long time, and here we are anyway. L'chaim. Okay, did you get any of that? Are we all still together? I tell you, Dati. Shalom Lavi, good to see you. Okay, one line emotional check-in, where we all up to together before we end with a meditation. If you're online over there, if you're online over here, give me one line. Are you following? Is it making sense? Yes, inspired, with you, amazing. Let's meditate. Worth the time. Stunning. Oh, thank you, Susan. Feeling grateful and connected. Leon's processing. Now it makes sense why we feel good in the Sukkah, because our heart is open, because the light is pouring in. Again, we're staying away from some of the Kabbalistic technicalities, but we're trying to give the Hasidic experience the description that it deserves. Grateful, humbled, excited, hungry and thirsty now for so much. Stunning, just joining. Thank you. Great job. Wonderful, everybody. Shalom, Stephanie, and to you, my friend. I hope all is well. Let's meditate again in the Sukkah. I hope you're in the Sukkah. Quickly run outside to your Sukkah. Run inside to the Sukkah. So if in the elevation program, we're going to take some of the tools that we know and have used together. If you're not, you'll jump on board right now, and we'll see how far we can get together. I want everyone to turn off your phones now and in general. And let's find some space within to do some of this work. Take the Zera Kodesh's Eitzah that we need to sit here and work on our Emunah. we need to let the light come in. There's a particular different light that purifies us over 7 days. We go from Chesed Gevurah to Feres Netzachod, Yesod, and Malchus, of course. And if you're ready, and we can do this together, I want everyone to make sure you've eliminated any external distractions like phone or noise. You're sitting somewhere quietly if you can. If you're in the video world right now, I want you to turn on your camera if you can, so we can see each other's face. And then you're going to have your eyes closed. It's going to help you in a second. And you out there don't have that option, but those in our program do. Wonderful. Good to see everyone's face. I want you to sit up straight in your chairs. I want you to uncross your arms and your legs. Wow, Michelle has a whole team over there. It's pretty awesome. Hey, Team Michelle. Uncross your arms and your legs. Sit up straight if you can. And I want you just to take a moment to allow your body to relax. I want you to take a moment to allow your shoulders to relax. I want you to take a moment to allow your torso, your front and back to relax. I want you to take a moment to allow your hips and your legs to relax. I want you to take a moment to allow your ankles and your feet to relax. I want you to take a moment to allow your toes to relax. Coming up to your head, allow your ears to relax, your temples to relax, your jaw to relax. We're going to begin with a basic meditation we've been learning together in the premium group on B'tachon, which is particularly suited energetically to a Sukkah. Sukkah is described as a rebirthing process. We return to the womb of our mother, that she surrounds us, and we are safe here. Nothing external can affect us. This is an incredibly important and strong way to begin any meditation, especially for people who are very energetically sensitive. So I want you to right now just to listen to the words. If you know this meditation, you can take a moment right now to begin it yourself. It's a little mantra with 4 or 5 steps, and we go round and round a few times. And I'm going to say the words out loud, but I want you to really repeat them and own them and decide on them for yourself in your own mind and heart. Before we do this together right now, I just want you to choose and believe that everybody in all the groups online right now, that we are all connected together. I want you to just be aware there's a lot of people watching this video around the world right now. It's pretty incredible. We can come together today wherever we are in the world and share this experience together. And even though we're all in our separate little sukkahs, our separate little lives, our separate little bubbles, consciousness is beyond space and time. I want you to be aware of other people around the world right now. I want you to choose and believe on the count of 3 that we bind ourselves and our souls together as one. Choose to bind your soul to everyone else in this group right now and believe that you are on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Great, we're going to choose to do that again on the count of 3 to even strengthen that, make that even stronger, to choose and believe we're connected together. And as we do that, we're going to be open to receive any light, any energy from the group, to share it with ourselves and share it with each other. Even more strongly strengthening that connection in the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Choose right now to connect yourself to your source, to Hashem, and just allow light and influx to come into you. If it helps to visualize it, visualize it. If that's too distracting, don't. On the count of 3, choose and believe you're connected to Hashem. 1, 2, 3. When you get to 3, don't think about it anymore. You've chosen it. Just believe it and hold space for that. Choose to strengthen that right now on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. On the count of 3, I want you to choose to connect to this group, and I want you to choose to connect that Hashem should flood this whole group with light and love and energy. 1, 2, 3. Nudge your head a little if you can feel a little extra light or connection right now. Wonderful. So here's a little 4 or 5 step important base to begin this work. As I say each of these lines a few times over, don't just hear me say them, repeat them in your own mind and choose to commit to them in your own mind. Connecting to everyone doing this meditation now and everyone doing it in the future. Number 1, Rabbeinu Shel Olam, Master of the world, source of all of reality. Tabarasani, Tabarasani, you created me. You're creating me right now. Tamachaye Ati. You gave me life, and you're giving me life right now. And therefore I choose to turn to you right now, to connect to you right now, and only to you right now. And I choose to disconnect from everybody and everything else in the world. Again, Rebbe Shel Olam, Master of the world, source of all reality and creation. You are literally creating me right now. Every cell, every molecule, all my consciousness. You are creating it willfully and lovingly right now. You are flooding me with chiyas and energy right now, literally pouring me in life into me right now. As I recognize you are my creator, my source of life, I choose right now to be somech, to rely on you, to draw from you, and to disconnect from any other thing in past, present, or future, any other person, energetically, emotionally. You'll go back to it later if you need to, that's totally fine. But right now I only choose to connect to Source, to Hashem, to the Yud, Hey, and Vav, Hey. Rebbe Shel Olam, Master of the universe, creator of all of reality, who's generating all of the infinite world and worlds right now, all of the angels, all the Tzaddikim right now. My Sukkah, my house, the walls, the fibers, the chair I'm sitting on right now. You are creating me right now. You are choosing consciously, lovingly to create me right now. You are giving me life and flooding life and energy and consciousness into me right now. And if I choose to sit in the Sukkah of that awareness only, to disconnect myself from anything outside of that, to every other person, to any other struggle, to any other spiritual energy, only the Source, only to Hashem right now, the infinite creator of all of reality. You are creating me right now. You're giving me life right now. If I choose to completely and utterly only connect to you and that life and energy right now, and to disconnect from every other person, all my history, all my projected future, all the noise, every other person, even my other family members, I'm allowed to have 5 minutes to myself. All the mothers afraid to disconnect from the kids, they'll be fine, I promise you. Just see a beam of light going down from Hashem to each of your children, so they're safe, and now you're allowed to draw into your own Sukkah consciousness, to your B'tachon bubble. Master of the universe, who creates all of the worlds and all of this world and all of my life, you're creating me right now. willfully, compassionately generating me right now. My nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, nechida right now. My consciousness, my emotions, my physical body, and all the levels of my physical body right now. You're pouring light and energy into me right now, tremendous light. And if I choose to commit to give that my full attention and disconnect from everything else. And as you create this sukkah in your consciousness, I want you to now visualize that light that you feel within you surrounds all your limbs, and you bring all your limbs, your hands and your feet, every part of your body, into that awareness with you right now. Bring it all into your awareness, divine awareness right now. Your entire being is now in the sukkah of consciousness, in the state of bina and chokhmah, and everything else falls away. Let's say the mantra one more time. Rabboni Shel Olam, Master of the universe, source of all of creation, creating everything right now. You are creating me right now. Every limb, every cell, every DNA, my hair, my heart. You are giving me life and energy right now. Flooding me life and energy right now. And if energetically I choose in my consciousness to connect to you only, and to disconnect from everything and everyone else in the world right now. I bring my whole being and my body as well into that light. So I'm purely in that light itself right now. And you're flooded with light and you're flooded with love. You're in your own sukkah of consciousness now. I want you to invite everybody in the online group, everyone around the world, and all the different mediums doing this meditation right now into your sukkah as well. Expand that in. Expand everyone into that sukkah of consciousness right now. Include everybody and flood them with light right now. Everyone in the present, everyone watching the future, this will be their present too. They're all invited in right now. I want you to connect everyone in this group to Hashem. And now go through this mantra meditation one more time with a collective consciousness together. Rabboni Shel Olam, Master of the universe. You created us all as one being with one heart. You're giving life to us right now collectively as one being of one heart. And therefore we are choosing to focus purely our attention to you, to energetically only draw from you, and to disconnect from everything else around us. We're choosing to bring all our being and all our body into that experience, into that sukkah. Wonderful. Just be there for a moment. Hashem increases the Shefa Elokee, the Ruach HaKodesh, the divine light, the divine inspiration. Trust this place, fall back into the Sukkah. Next stage, keep your eyes closed if you can. Tonight is Moshe Rabbeinu, the embodiment of Das Elyon and Tachton together, of higher consciousness. Yeshpizen Ilain. They are our teachers and they are here right now in our Sukkah. I want you to invite Moshe Rabbeinu as an actual being of consciousness, a true spiritual master for all of the world. Moshe Rabbeinu means he's teaching us now. He's guiding us right now. I want you to think of one idea you have of this off-the-charts spiritual master who went to the highest spiritual worlds, who knew Hashem face to face. who's continued after his physical passing to channel light and revelation, and consciousness itself, as the Tanya teaches. He's the giver of consciousness to every single one of us. He gives das to every person in the generation. I want you to think of one teaching, one story about him. Start to build up with your das tachton, your external part of your mind, images, associations about Moshe Rabbeinu as a way to draw his soul towards you, towards this group and into your Sukkah. Choose right now to bind yourself to the spiritual energy in your Sukkah. See your own Sukkah illuminated. If you're not in a Sukkah, then choose to connect to the illumination that other people in this group right now are experiencing in their Sukkah. If you are in a Sukkah, see your Sukkah walls and schach above become illuminated, and share that with yourself and everybody else who's not in a Sukkah. Share that energy with them right now. And Moshe Rabbeinu is coming to the Sukkah right now. He wants to come in. We have a tradition that he only comes in if you invite him in. You summons him in. So in the count of 3, I want you to choose and believe that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come to you to bless you, to guide you, and to open your consciousness. That's what he does. You may want to spell out the letters of his Hebrew name in illuminated fashion with light. If you only know English, do it in Moses, M-O-S-E-S. Just hold in mind it should be connected to whatever the appropriate corresponding Hebrew words are, Hebrew letters are. On the count of 3, you're going to summons and believe that Moshe Rabbeinu is right in front of you, inviting him into a Sukkah of consciousness. 1, 2, 3. On the count of 3, choose that his presence should be even more pronounced and clear to you and everybody in the group. 1, 2, 3. I want you to ask him for a blessing right now. Let him raise his hands over your head and give you a blessing right now. Ask him for any wisdom, insight, teaching. Ask him, what do you most need to receive from him? What insight do you most need from him? He's going to give that to you right now. 1, 2, 3. Insight you don't understand, ask him to clarify it. Ask him a specific question of some help you need, guidance where you need, a challenge in your life you don't have enough confidence or courage or consciousness itself to overcome. Ask him to flood you with consciousness now and in future, to be with you and guide you. Watch his facial expression, his hands, his body language, the words that come to you, any sense, any shift. Choose it and believe it. You're open to receiving a message, here it comes. 1, 2, 3, now. Wonderful. Tonight is the yartzeit of Rebbe Nachman. If you feel drawn to Rebbe Nachman, invite him into your Sukkah right now. We have a candle lit for him. The candle is a place where the neshama can dwell. If you don't have a candle lit for him, hold in mind right now, you can light a candle for him shortly after this. You can connect to the candle in my Sukkah as we're all connected as one. Invite Rebbe Nachman in. Think of some Torah that he wrote. a story about him, what you imagine he looks like, the feeling of being an Uman. Find a reference point and then just draw him in. Take a moment to speak out something to Moshe Rabbeinu, Rebbe Nachman Ben Feige. Draw their letters in your mind. Ask for guidance, for insight, for blessing, for holiness, for breakthrough. Take a moment right now. Wonderful. Moving to the final part of this exercise. I want you to sit in the Sukkah wherever you're sitting, and I want you to see the walls and the floor and the ceiling illuminated, getting brighter and brighter. Ask Hashem to bring down, to draw in the makif, the light of Bina, of the mother, feminine energy surrounding you. Even if you do not know what those words mean, just say to Hashem whatever He said, whatever the meaning the mystics say when they say those words, that's what I'm now bringing around me. If you're not in a sukkah, just visualize that you're surrounded by the walls of a sukkah and the light of the sukkah is above and below. See the 6 dimensions around you, and ask Hashem to draw down from the Or Ein Sof to Chochmah and Bina, in the world of Atzilus, down into the Das of Zah, down into the 6 dimensions of Zah, this tremendous light, down into your lave, into your heart, this tremendous light. I want everyone right now to place the palms of their hands facing each other, as we've learned many sources of this from Torah together. So the palms should not be touching, but generally facing, until you feel the chiyas and the shefa run between them, the energy between them. Imagine there's a light coming down from above your head, from the Or Ein Sof, from the infinite light. It's running down into your head, into your heart, into your arms, uniting together. The hands are the expressions of Das, this pashtus of Das into the world. Extensions of consciousness into the world. The hands are the channelers of Amunah. They channel Amunah. Now I want you to turn your hands towards your heart. We'll go through, just keep your hands to your heart. We're building Minyan Malchus. We're building the positive, holy, pure emotions of the heart right now together in the Sukkah. I'm going to tell you what to do physically if you're in a Sukkah. Replicate any part you can. If you're not in a Sukkah, it's totally fine. If you feel overwhelmed by it, just choose to connect to us doing this, totally fine. See that light pour into your heart. See the light coming from the 6 dimensions of the Sukkah, especially the schach of the most infinite, loving, divine, feminine light of Bina, of Amunah, of true perception. You're doing wonderful. Pouring into your heart right now. Expanding your heart, the Ruach HaKodesh, Tahara Saleh, opening up the Tzilidim Himanusa, to the Chachman, the Seichel, Shabachol Devar. Lift your hands up to the top of your forehead, the Metzach. If you know what I'm about to do it with me as we've learned before. If you don't know it, just hold in mind to visualize what I'm saying. If you know how to, even if you don't know how to, just say you want to connect to whatever the spiritual energy is in what I'm saying now. The Shem of Keter. As they say these names of Hashem, just choose to be open to receive the light embodied within them. Yud Kametz, Hey Kametz, Vav Kametz, and Hey Kametz. Yud Kametz, Hey Kametz, Vav Kametz, and Hey Kametz. Crown light, Keter, expands and opens. The Hasagas Eliki, the Makiv, floods in from above. Yud Kametz, Hey Kametz, Vav Kametz, and Hey Kametz. Moving your hands right down to the right side of your head. Chokhmah. Expanded consciousness. Lamala min azman, lamala min amakam. Koyach ma, infinite potential. The divine soul within you. Let's turn it on and empower it. From the light of above coming through the light of the Sukkah. The Sukkah, the divine energetic field surrounding us, drawing this light from the higher worlds into our Chachma right now. This divine name, Yud Patach, Hey Patach, Vav Patach, and Hey Patach. Yud Patach, Hey Patach, Vav Patach, and Hey Patach. Yud Patach, Hey Patach, Vav Patach, and Hey Patach. Choose to connect to everybody else in the present all around the world and all these different platforms. On Zoom and social media, all at once. Choose to connect this whole group to the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light pouring into us. Choose to connect to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Rebbe Nachman Ben Feige, to the light of the Sukkah. Share and receive that light. Move your hands to the left side of your head. Light of Bina, of perfect understanding, of Seichel, of rational thinking, but not OCD, of pure understanding, of reason, integrated with intuition. Two partners that don't separate. Bina, Yud Sere, Heit Sere, Vav Sere, Heit Sere. Yud Sere, Heit Sere, Vav Sere, Heit Sere. Wonderful. The Moichin is in. Flow with me now as much as you can. If you're unable to physically do what I'm saying in your Sukkah, just choose to connect to the idea or my voice or energy together. If you're in the Sukkah, I want you to turn to your right side. Place your right side. We're going to start the Binyan of Malchus, the Or Nimi of the Chasadim that are coming into our hearts. It's not enough not to feel negative feelings. Now we want to open our hearts to have Kedusha, Ruach HaKodesh, to take all the feelings of love, of loving kindness, of infinite compassion, of joy, of feeling caring for all, and ourselves as well, and Hashem. Rebbe Nachman says only in the Sukkah can we learn to love ourselves, and only through loving ourselves can we only then love Hashem. And here is the divine name as we draw from the right side love and kindness into us. The side that we turn to for the first stage of the Lulav. Yud Segel, Hey Segel, Vav Segel, and Hey Segel. Yud Segel, Hey Segel, Vav Segel, and Hey Segel. Facing the wall you're facing, I want you to draw this name in your dimyon, your imagination, on the wall. And then feel it coming from the wall of the Sukkah into your heart. Yud Segel, Hey Segel, Vav Segel, Hey Segel. Ahava. Yud Segel, Hey Segel, Vav Segel, and Hey Segel. All the people you find it hard to love, feel love for them. The parts of yourself you find hard to love, feel love for it. Bring it into the light. That which you most want to love and care for in the world, expand the love for it right now. Doing wonderful. Moving 180 degrees now to the left side. Transforming and healing all the fears of our hearts, all the doubts, all the pain, abandonment and rejection. Replacing that with healthy boundaries, with healthy protection, with awe, with respect, divine awe, divine awareness. Yira Ila'a. Draw this name on the Sukkah wall in front of you. Facing the left side from when we started. Yud Shva, Hey Shva, Vav Shva, and Hey Shva. Yud Shva, Hey Shva, Vav Shva, and Hey Shva. And draw that into your heart right now. Melt and release your fears. Melt and release the blocks. Turn back to where you're facing, forward to Feres. Balance and harmony, beauty, a healthy sense of self and alignment. See the wall illuminated in front of you with this divine name. Show it down from Bina. Show it down from the Das of Zah into the Midas of Zah, into your own heart. To find beauty in all things and harmony in all things. Beauty in all things and harmony in all things. Yud Chalam, Hey Chalam, Vav Chalam, and Hey Chalam. Yud Chalam, Hey Chalam, Vav Chalam, and Hey Chalam. Share it with the whole group. Receive it from the whole group. Wonderful. Take all the chaos in your life when you can't find balance, when you can't find harmony, and release it into that name. And draw that light into your heart to find beauty in everything, to see the Chachma and the Seichel, Shebechol Davar in everything. Harmony between head and heart, harmony between spirituality and physicality, harmony between Shabbos and the week, harmony between meditation and my mundane life. Yud Chalam, Hey Chalam, Vav Chalam, and Hey Chalam. Rebuild your heart, re-energize your heart, open your heart. Reach up, up, up. Lamala, lamala, la'ela, la'ela. Netzach. To know when to dominate, to know when to be strong, to not be fearful. To have the willingness to push on, to push through, the ability with confidence, strength, with joy. The heavens we look up to right now, the divine spiritual worlds pour down to us, giving us clarity and strength to overcome all our Yetzer Haras, all our resistance. Here's the divine name. Sit on the schach. Pour it down into your heart. Yud chirik, Hey chirik, Vav chirik, and Hey chirik. Yud chirik, Hey chirik, Vav chirik, and Hey chirik. See all the places you're afraid to move forward. All the places that you're holding back even though there's no need to. See the heavens come down upon you now, flooding you with strength and confidence. Tremendous resilience, tremendous determination, divinely channeled. Down, Mata, Olam, down to the physical world. The middle of Hoid, to know when to be humble, to know when to hold back, to know when to release and let go and not try and dominate and control things. To find true humility, that the holiness of submission. To know when I'm being too much, to do it in a healthy way, not a passive-aggressive way. See it on the floor, pouring up into your heart. It's not really the floor, it's a divine made of above. We're reaching to the 6 dimensions to access the 6 holy worlds of Zah and the world of Atzilus, and drawing the light down into our hearts of true humility, true trust, to let go and let God. Allow that into your heart. Everywhere it's hard to trust, everywhere it's hard to let go, let it flood you right now and transform you right now. Yud kubutz, Hey kubutz, Vav kubutz, and Hey kubutz. Yud kubutz, Hey kubutz, Vav kubutz, and Hey kubutz. You're doing wonderful right now. And last, turn around towards the final wall. I'm going to keep facing you just so you can hear me. You're doing wonderful. Yesod, the middle of connection, of bonding, even sexual bonding and connection. All our sexual energy should be harnessed in the holiest way, the most pure ways, to connect in the deepest ways. Even not sexual connection, and I'm bonding with people, it should be with innocence, with purity. To see the Chachma and the Seichel, divine wisdom within all things at all times. And to connect to that only. To connect to people in the deepest, holiest ways. Do that right now. Release any destructive sexual energy, any destructive sexual energy we've absorbed, anything I've bonded with that I shouldn't. And enlighten me with true Devekus, true Hiskashus, to the wisdom and light within all things, the divine wisdom and light in all things. Yud Shuruk, Hey Shuruk, Vav Shuruk, and Hey Shuruk. Yud Shuruk, Hey Shuruk, Vav Shuruk, and Hey Shuruk. Release all that negativity and embrace holy, elevated power of connection within you for this day and all of your life moving forward. And finally drop your hands. Finally tilt your head back. The final level is Malchus. You are Malchus. You are the center. All the walls are illuminated for much greater Mekifim, much greater lights above. See Hashem flooding you from all sides and from no sides. And hold space for yourself as the central, still point within. And now see the light turn on within you and flood out beyond the walls of the Sukkah to your work, to your family, to your busy lives. You radiate the light now to all of the world, to all of your future. You are the embodiment of the Sukkah. This is the Sukkah Leviathan, the Sukkah that goes with you, into the future. See every challenge you face, every desire you get tripped up by, every fear that sabotages you, every relationship that's challenging. See light within it now. See good within it right now. Turn on the eyes of Amunah. Let the externality fall away. See the infinite Shefa flowing through that star, that Aleph base, that letter. Turn on your Jewish X-ray vision and illuminate it all. When your heart is pure, Taharas Lev, when you're Zecher Baruch HaKodesh, V'tahil Lebeinu, and see good and light in everything. This is Sukkah consciousness. With the power together as a group, in the Schus of the Tzaddikim of Moshe Rabbeinu, Rebbe Nachman, take 2 minutes now to pull light into your being, to shine it forward into your life, and to see the world through the eyes of Amunah, through all the dimensions of your life. 2 minutes begins now. Wonderful. Take a few final moments to ask Rebbe Nachman and Moshe Rabbeinu any blessings or insight. Thank the Sukkah, the Shekhinah, and Hashem for any lights, revelation, or breakthrough. When you're ready, with new eyes of Amunah, you can take a few deep breaths, wiggle your fingers, and open your eyes. Wow. I wonder if everyone can share a sentence of what that experience was like for you. Who could share a sentence of what that experience was like for them? you're here. Anything you care to share at all? See, everyone's busy typing. Everyone's busy typing. We're in a few different mediums here, so there's lots of people in lots of different places. Michelle says, amazing and sweet. Someone said, my husband called Rebbe Nachman in to help him. I hope it helps. It's very special neshama. Wonderful. Wow, here comes a lot. Elizabeth says, emotional. Nava says, total light and unity, so healing. Anna said, filled me with light. Mel said, pure heart and open mind. It comes back again and again. Wonderful. It comes more and more, and all the different things. I can't read all of these at the same time, but it's so nice to see all these effects. Illuminating, healing, and reassuring, says Julie. Special, connecting, evolving, said Susan. Kim says, real elevation. I feel the holy energy, Rebbe Katz. Thank you. You're welcome, Kim. Here's my hands right back at you. I feel that I was like in the Sukkah. I could feel intense, pulsing energy. You were in a Sukkah of consciousness, right? Flanky says, I felt the rush of energy and floated away when connecting to the Kabbalah. Galaxy S8 says, I've been seeking clarity in a number of aspects in my life and came home to Israel for Sukkat, especially for this. It's my Hebrew birthday tonight. Wonderful. And Moshe Rabbeinu and Rebbe Nachman brought tremendous blessings and clarity. Wonderful. Kalika said sleepiness at first, but then followed by energy, hope, and confidence. Nava says, I've been davening for this kind of thing in my Shemana Esrei, and it's amazing how Hashem answers, and I feel amazing and excited. First time felt physical presence, Moshe Rabbeinu and Rebbe Nachman. Wonderful. There's about 100 of you on all these different systems. I'm getting flooded by all these remarkable comments. I'm so joy-filled to hear what's happening. Do you see how these are, if you go back to the Torahs we began with the Rebbe Nachman, of the Moreh Naim, of the Moreh Shemesh, by what we learned from the Sifrei Kabbalah, the Kitvei Ari, if you understand these, the Penimim, the Mekifim, and all of these lights and all these things, you understand a little of how we're bringing these together. Also hope and confidence for the future. That's wonderful. Avam said, connection, unity, purity, a strongly palpable, energetic way. I feel like I'm in Yerushalayim, not Manhattan. You are in Yerushalayim. The Dalet Amos of a tzaddik is like being in Eretz Yisrael. The Tzaddikim say that a tzaddik means someone living in Dveikus, so that's where we are. Wonderful. Okay, so we're getting lots of these messages, and I can't take them all right now, but thank you. So there's a lot to review there. There's a lot of teaching. That was basically a 3-hour session. There's other sessions if you find online if you're interested in the Elevation Tribe who are doing the online program. We've shared with you some of the specific sessions from last time. If I have time, I will post all the source sheets in our online program for you so you can learn the source sheets as well. Say yes if you're interested in seeing the source sheets on side. So I will try my best, bli neder, to get them to you. Sorry we can't offer that to our Facebook friends. I'm kind of off Facebook at the moment. Wow, that's a lot of yeses. Fine. So in summary, who thinks that they can summarize what we learned? What's the one-line takeaway? I dare anyone's been on this for 3 hours now. Going back to way the beginning. Wow. The Siladim Himanusa, and what it means Amuna, and what it means the Chacham Segel Shabakol Devar, and what it means to Haras Alev, and what it really means Ruach HaKodesh, and what it really means the 3 levels of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkat, and what it really means. Remember my friend Jay in the Sukkah, to not negate emotions, Moech Sholet Ad Alev, that's a misunderstanding. The first stage is to overcome. The mind does the right thing even if you don't feel it. The second stage of Yom Kippur is to purify the negative feelings so there's no resistance. The third stage is Kedushas Halev, that our heart is now aligned with coherence. That our heart, we now bring in the light to purify the heart. Once we do that, our consciousness opens, the light comes in, and we perceive the world differently. We see the good within all things. And then the base Aaron said that's the Sukkah's Leviathan. When you did that, you could take that into your life, and that's the Sukkah consciousness that comes with you. Sukkah is not a mitzvah. Sukkah is a state of mind. It means bina. It means Sagas Elaki. It means to see the world through divine revelation, and that is Emunah. That is the end game, and that's called Panim B'Panim. When the chef is flowing now down through Zah, down into the Nook, then it flows into this world, and we go through our life seeing divinity in all things. There is ein adam ulvadoi. That's what Rebbe Nachman is saying. Hakol echad. We see that everything is one. That's the power of the lulav. The sound of the lulav shaking is the sound of everything coming apart and everything coming back together again. All the diversity, all the purity, the alma purity, all coming back together. That's why the lulav is the same gematria as hakol kol echad, that everything is one. Because it's that feeling of the unity of all things, of all the dimensions coming together, the 6 sides. But what is the malchus? What is the nook? That you are in the center. You are the consciousness that unifies everything. And that's the binyan of malchus, to become the consciousness, the receiver that sees the unity of all things, even in the darkness. That's a lot to think about. Much love to you from my Sukkah, from Yerushalayim, my friends. May you only know elevation and light and tikkun. May your malchus, your capacity, your feminine energy be rebuilt, your heart be rebuilt to be light and filled, that when you know something is good, you feel electrified with holiness towards doing that thing. It opens up your heart, purifies your heart to see divinity in all things. When we can do that mamash, then we rebuild the Sukkah Stavid Hanafalas. We build the temple, because the temple is the heart of the world, the heart of the Jewish people. And the temple is when we build our hearts, then we build the heart of the world of Yerushalayim. And then the whole world has Yerushalayim. We have Shleimus of Amidus. The whole world is Be'eretz Malahavitz De'eretz Hashem. The whole world is full of divine revelation. And through our hard work, that's what the world will know, God willing. Thank you. Love to you. May you only know elevations, and to be continued. Have a wonderful day.